Chapter 3550. Lei Wuxing and Lei Wushuang stayed behind. Because they were the main force this time, the two of them were the real core. Unlike the previous 7 people, who were only one step away from success, they failed. The two of them had already passed all the tests and were at the 6-star realm, which indicated that they were the strongest here. Looking at the bloodline ancestor wandering around, Zichen stepped forward and asked in confusion, "Bloodline ancestor, why haven't you disappeared yet?" The bloodline ancestor turned around, jumped up from the ground, and knocked hard on Zichen's head. "You ungrateful boy! You burned the bridge after crossing the river. I just helped you out of danger, and now you want me to disappear?" His voice was young, but he pretended to be old, which made him look a little cute. Zichen rubbed his head and said aggrievedly, "Didn't the previous Holy Master leave? I think you should leave too." "Nonsense, I came here in person." "How can I leave?" The bloodline ancestor said proudly. "You came here in person?" Zichen said in surprise. "Isn't there suppression of the realm here?" Speaking of this, the bloodline ancestor was even more proud. He pointed to himself and said, "Those suppression are useless to me. Although I can only exert the battle strength of a 6-star realm, I'm much stronger than those guys who can't even use their doppelgangers." Zichen looked at the bloodline ancestor strangely. His expression reminded the bloodline ancestor of some unpleasant things in the past. He snorted and said, "Boy, do you still want to fight with me?" Zichen hurriedly said, "No, no." Just a moment ago, he really wanted to test the bloodline ancestor's current strength. "That's good. Let's go. I still need to inspect this place. Little girl, come with me." After saying this to Leilon, the bloodline ancestor turned around and left decisively. Leilon followed him. Lei Wushuang looked at Zichen with a strange look in her eyes. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that the relationship between Zichen and the bloodline ancestor seemed to have undergone some wonderful changes after the bloodline ancestor told her the details. It seemed that the situation was reversed. The bloodline ancestor began to fear Zichen. Zichen walked over to Lei Wuxing, cupped his fist, and said, "My name is Zichen. Please excuse me." Lei Wuxing cupped his fists and said, "Lei Wuxing, this is my little sister, Lei Wuxing." Lei Wushuang said to Zichen, "Hey, you're not mad at me, are you?" Zichen smiled and said, "How could I? You're at the pinnacle of core. I've never seen a pinnacle core before. I'm so excited." "Really?" Unparalleled Thunder looked at Zichen suspiciously. "It is my, Zichen's, greatest honor to be able to receive guidance from a core disciple." Glib-tongued. "Sure enough, none of the men are good." Lei Wushuang turned her head away, but her expression had obviously returned to normal because of these few words. She was no longer brooding over the previous matter. Zichen pointed at the armor on his body and said, "I had no choice but to refine it to fight against the enemy. Now I'll remove the ownership." Lei Wuxing waved his hand and said, "No need. This is your spoils of war. You should refine it. Those guys are really despicable. Not only did they deceive me with false information, but they also joined forces with others to deal with the people of our clan. They can forget about becoming a pinnacle core disciple, even if they occupy one of these 2 points, let alone occupy 2 of them." Lei Wushuang said unhappily. Although she was a little naive, her character of hating evil was completely revealed. It was in line with the qualities of a pinnacle core disciple. Zichen said in a deep voice, "The quality of the Immortal King armor is extraordinary. Its defense is amazing. I think you will be able to make a greater contribution to the Holy Thunder Clan if you wear it." Lei Wuxing waved his hand again and said, "There's really no need. Even if we didn't gain anything this time, the resources of this planet are already a great harvest. Your current realm is too low. The Immortal King armor will be of great use to you." Seeing Lei Wuxing's determination, Zichen nodded and stopped arguing about this matter. He then asked, "What are your plans next?" The others will be here soon. We'll talk about it when they arrive. This time, the Holy Thunder Clan was truly on the right track. There would be many powerhouses and geniuses from various aspects coming here. Not to mention what the inner world had. Just the mineral resources here were enough for the Holy Thunder Clan to pay attention to. After leaving Zichen's world, Lei Zhenghongtian's anger was almost uncontrollable. The other 6 people's faces were also very gloomy. The 100-year assessment had come to an end, and they had failed. From now on, they were no longer fated to be part of the inner world. Are we going to leave just like that? Xiao Wu said unwillingly. Leave? How is that possible? Lei Zhenghongtian said coldly. Although we have lost the qualification this time, as long as we get the largest share of resources, we will still have a chance. Everyone's eyes lit up as they saw hope again. Lei Zhenghongtian had Lord Leijing behind him. When Lord Leijing spoke earlier, he had implied that they would stand up from where they had fallen. If they really found the soul-gathering crystal mineral vein this time, their merits would outweigh their faults. In addition to Lord Leijing's words, it was not impossible to become part of the inner world. But with our strength, how are we going to conquer a world? After the battle with Immortal Slaughterer, these people had lost their previous arrogance. They knew very well that even if they joined forces, they would not be able to conquer a new world. Lei Zhenghongtian said, there are a total of 18 planets. Those powerful forces can occupy one by themselves. Among them, there must be a joint team of other smaller forces. We will join them and use that as a springboard to enter the deeper worlds. Although he deliberately targeted Zichen, one had to admit that Lei Zhenghongtian was still knowledgeable. Everyone had to admit that the 4 holy clans were very powerful. However, they could only occupy one of the 18 planets. They did not dare to occupy more than one. If the major forces occupied a complete planet alone, they would naturally have to give the smaller forces a way to survive. Therefore, many forces would join forces to attack the planets, and then divide them reasonably. After making up his mind, Lei Zhenghongtian began to think of ways to find a suitable force to join. The combat power of the 7 of them was obvious to all. If they were willing to contribute, there would naturally be many forces that were willing to open their doors to them. Just as the worlds were being conquered one after another, the Holy Thunder Clan's main force finally arrived. This time, there were existences of various professions. There were array masters who specialized in building teleportation arrays, and there were also existences who were born with keen senses and were suitable for mining mineral veins. Of course, there were also powerhouses who specialized in offense. Among them, the number of 6-star holy spirits was the highest. This was because this was the true extreme realm. It was also the most powerful force in this place. The teleportation array began to be built. It led directly to the outside of the vortex. Chapter 3551. Staying in the world he had conquered. Zichen finally saw the true strength of the Holy Thunder Clan. More teams would arrive every day, and they were all top experts in all aspects. Now, 3 known mineral veins had been discovered. One of them was a super-large immortal stone mineral vein. Its quality was very high, and its price was immeasurable. Among the 18 worlds he had conquered, none of them could be compared to this immortal stone mineral vein. The 2 mineral veins could be used to refine Holy Spirit weapons, and they were both of high quality. There were even experts who had confirmed that the value of the core was comparable to the Holy Thunder Demon Bone of the Holy Thunder Clan. In addition, there were other resources on this planet waiting to be discovered. Many people had already predicted that the value of the many resources on this planet alone was already a huge and terrifying number. It could be said that this time, the Holy Thunder Clan had already made a huge profit. Originally, Lei Wuxing planned to build the teleportation portal quickly, and then directly attack the core planet in the deepest part. But now, with all kinds of resources being excavated, he suddenly changed his mind and settled down here first. All kinds of people who were collecting resources were quickly rushing over, and many authorities were open for him. At this time, in the entire Holy Spirit realm, many forces were paying attention to this place. Countless flying ships were moving forward, and all the people who had built the teleportation portal during this period were mobilized to this area. Interdomain teleportation portals were being built, one after another. Beside these teleportation portals, there were holy spirits guarding them, and the weakest was 7-star. This was because all the holy spirits below 7-star had entered the vortex. In Zichen's world, more and more holy spirits were gathering, and the mining work was also in progress. At the same time, some formation masters began to build the teleportation portal to the core. Lei Wuxing had already planned to launch an all-out attack. The bloodline ancestor was still here, looking very leisurely, wandering around. He was obviously a young man, but he acted like an old man. The original city was left for the Holy Thunder clan to live in. Zichen came out of the city and stopped in a dense forest. The immortal beast mount was resting not far away. He held the battle spear in his hand. This time he was not wearing the immortal king armor, and was practicing the spear technique left behind in the immortal spear. He had already mastered Spear 9 and Spear 6, and he was gradually making progress on Spear 3. With his eyes closed, Zichen's energy slowly surged around his body. A gentle breeze blew through the forest, like a spring breeze, caressing his face. Suddenly, Zichen opened his eyes. The long spear in his hand shook, and a ray of light was released from the tip of the spear. He thrust his spear forward. The tip of the spear met with the air, bringing about a sharp whistling sound. 3 black dots were left in the air. Zichen had fired 3 shots in an instant. The 3 spear lights that pierced through space flew out for more than 10 feet before disappearing. Looking at the disappearing spear light, Zichen sighed. Spear 3 is easier to comprehend, but the spear of heaven and earth is much more difficult. According to the current progress, it will take at least a few months. Brat, the way you speak is even more annoying than the way I speak. An immature voice that was pretending to be an old man rang out. Zichen turned around, and his eyes lit up when he saw the bloodline ancestor. Brat, what do you want to do? The bloodline ancestor stared at Zichen warily. I may be able to comprehend this spear art faster through combat. Zichen had no intention to hide his thoughts and said, Would you like to practice with me? Humph. Brat, what do you take me for? The bloodline ancestor stood with his hands behind his back. I have a lot of things to do every day. How can I have time to practice with you? Zichen scratched his head and said, But I see that you have nothing to do all day, ancestor. Why don't we just have a few simple moves? F***CK off. The bloodline ancestor was so angry that he wanted to curse, but he didn't dare to do so. He was worried that this guy would really attack him. He knew how eccentric this guy was. He coughed lightly and said, Brat, you only know how to practice all day long. You're getting more and more lawless. How dare you say that I have nothing to do? Let me tell you something. I called you here because I have something important to discuss with you. At the same time, I plan to give you some benefits. It seems that my actions are superfluous. After that, the bloodline ancestor raised his head and turned away. Benefits? Zichen put away his immortal spear and hurried forward to stop the bloodline ancestor and asked, What benefits? The bloodline ancestor looked at Zichen, who was close at hand, and said, Go and squat 10 feet away. Oh, Zichen was a bit confused, but for the sake of the benefits, he naturally didn't care about such a trivial matter. He retreated 10 feet away and squatted at the roots of the tree. He looked at the bloodline ancestor and asked, Is this okay? What exactly are the benefits? The bloodline ancestor breathed a sigh of relief inwardly. At present, he was only in the 6-star realm, and Zichen was too close to him, making him feel very uneasy. He made up his mind that after he went out, he would give this guy a good kick to vent his anger. At that time, he would rely on the power of the Saint Venerable to make Zichen kneel and beg for mercy, and he would say that he was wrong 10,000 times. "Why aren't you talking, ancestor?" Looking at the bloodline ancestor, who was a little absent-minded and slightly raised the corner of his mouth with a disgusting smile, Zichen shouted. Yes, nothing." The bloodline ancestor came back to his senses and glanced around. When he found that they were still in the dense forest, he looked at Zichen, who was squatting 10 feet away, and said, "It's about this world. What do you think?" Zichen was stunned. "This world? What do I think? Bloodline ancestor, what do you mean?" The bloodline ancestor said resentfully, "Kid, are you really stupid? There are countless resources in this world, and the benefits are great. Otherwise, why would Lei Zhang Hongtian target you? Kid, do you really think that he's doing this to vent the anger of the Lei Zhang family? Isn't that so?" Zichen asked. "This is only one of the reasons, but the most important reason is that the opportunities here are too great. If he drives you away, he will take all the credit. At that time, the Lei Zhang family will definitely come forward to discuss the distribution of resources." The bloodline ancestor said, "At that time, the Lei Zhang family will inevitably take a big bite out of them. There shouldn't be a big difference, right? Won't the Lei Zhang family get the benefits of the Holy Thunder Clan?" Well, in the next moment, Zichen understood. The Lei Zhang family was indeed part of the Holy Thunder Clan, but the Holy Thunder Clan had more than one Lei Zhang family. Therefore, in this case, the resources obtained by the Lei Zhang family would naturally be put in their own family instead of the Holy Thunder Clan. Looking at Zichen's slightly changed expression, the bloodline ancestor said, "It seems that you're not that stupid, kid. This time, not only did you conquer this planet, but you also successfully eliminated Lei Zhang Hongtian's group of 7. It's also a great merit." Zichen looked at the bloodline ancestor in confusion. The Holy Thunder Clan had lost 7 people who were likely to become the core of the clan. Why was it a great merit? Over the years, because of Lei Zhang's rise, the Lei Zhang family's tentacles are getting longer and longer. If he becomes the core of the clan, the Holy Thunder Clan will lose its last pure land. Lei Zhang Hongtian has been trying to win over the people who participated in the assessment over the years, but everything happened within the scope of the rules. "We have no right to eliminate them," the bloodline ancestor said. "But this time it's perfectly justifiable, so it's a great merit. In view of this contribution, I came to see you today. After our discussion, we've decided to give you a certain share of all the resources on this planet." Chapter 3552. Zichen fell silent. Originally, he fought so hard to conquer this world purely to contribute to the Holy Thunder Clan. He never thought that he would be able to occupy some shares, because with the arrival of various talents, the value of this planet was gradually discovered. So far, this was the planet with the most resources among the 18 planets, even though it was the smallest. The value of these resources was countless times higher than that of Zichen's last auction. Now, the vain ancestor actually wanted to give him a share. This was something he never thought of, because the value was too great. Looking at the stunned Zichen, the vain ancestor said, "Don't be stunned. I'll tell you the truth. This time, all the harvest on this planet will belong to the Holy Thunder Clan. These holy spirits who came to mine will only be rewarded and won't occupy their share. All the resources this time will be divided into 100 shares, so you can choose a certain share." All the resources were divided into 100 shares, which was still a terrifying number. After seeing that the vain ancestor was not joking, Zichen said hesitantly, "How about I choose 3? The vain ancestor took a breath and almost choked. "What did you say?" "If 3 is too much, then I'll choose 2. Zichen hurriedly said, "I'll take 1, and Leilan will take 1. If it doesn't work, Leilan and I will take half each." Although it was only 1% of the resources, it was still a lot. "You're really stupid," the The vain ancestor looked at Zichin and said, "But you're really doing this for the Holy Thunder Clan, and you already have the ultimate quality of a core. I think I'll find a time to arrange an assessment for you." A smile appeared on Zichen's face, and he said, "So, ancestor, you agree?" "Agree my ass. To tell you the truth, before we came here, we estimated that we can give you about 10 to 15 shares." Zichen was shocked when he heard this so much. It should be known that discovering resources was one thing, but excavating them and transporting them back to the Sacred Thunder Tribe was another matter altogether. The manpower and material resources consumed in the process was an extremely huge number. These things naturally required resources. For example, the 7-star Holy Spirit guarding the teleportation array outside could not be bye-bye. There were also teleportation arrays constructed by array masters, which required a terrifying amount of materials to construct. These were also resources. The bloodline ancestor said, "We have already calculated this. If we give you 15 of them, we will consume about 35 of them. In the end, the Holy Thunder Clan will still be able to occupy half of them. This is only a rough estimate. It is possible that the final harvest will be even greater. Because there are capable people in every aspect, we can save a lot of costs." Zichen nodded and fell into deep thought. After a while, he said, 15 is too much. I want 10. 5 for me, and 5 for Leylon." "Really?" the vain ancestor asked. "I gave you a very good price." Zichen smiled and said, "Of course it's true. The Holy Thunder Clan has treated me well, and now I can finally do something for the Holy Thunder Clan, let alone taking 10 shares. Even if I didn't take a single share, I would still be willing." If other people heard this, wouldn't they die of shame? The bloodline ancestor's eyes changed. He was very moved. "Fortunately, I am with you this time. Otherwise, the Holy Thunder Clan would have suffered a great loss. If that's the case, then this matter is settled." The bloodline ancestor said, "The major forces have begun to communicate with each other these days, and it seems that they are about to attack the inner world. As for me, I can't accompany you to practice. When the time comes, you can go in and practice. I believe that the enemies inside will definitely satisfy you." "So soon?" Zichen was very surprised. "The discussion will take some time, probably about half a month. You should prepare first." The bloodline ancestor turned and left. "Wait." Looking at the bloodline ancestor who was about to leave, Zichen stopped him. "Ancestor, are there really immortals in this world?" The ancestor looked at Zichen, and his expression gradually became strange. Zichen said, "Is there an immortal world outside the 3 realms of God, demon, and spirit?" The ancestor's gaze became more and more strange, but he did not answer Zichen and turned to leave. This made Zichen very surprised. Previously, he felt that the ancestor looked at him as if he was an idiot. There should be an immortal world, right? Their auras are obviously different from ours. Zichen sat there alone and began to think about this matter. As for the arrangement of this world, it was all up to Lei Wuxing to decide. Recently, he had met with the representatives of 18 planets. It was very difficult to kill powerhouses like Immortal Lu. No one could guarantee that there would not be countless existences comparable to Immortal Lu in the deep world. Therefore, after a discussion, many forces decided to join forces to attack. Due to all kinds of issues that needed to be discussed, the discussion this time lasted for half a month, just as the bloodline ancestor had said. During this half a month, Zichen had been comprehending his spear technique. After all the discussions were done, Lei Wuxing sent out a signal to gather everyone. Zichen returned to the city. On his way to Lei Wuxing's residence, he encountered many powerhouses along the way. When he arrived at Lei Wuxing's room, there were already more than 20 people gathered there. They were all in the 6-star realm and wore high-quality armor. When they saw Zichen enter, everyone looked at him. As the first existence to conquer a world, Zichen was quite famous here. Moreover, Everyone knew that he was almost invincible in this world when he wore the immortal king armor. Zi-Chan would definitely be a great fighting force in this invasion. Zi-Chin, you came at the right time. These people are all captains and have a team under them. Do you want to arrange a team for you two? After seeing Zi-Chin enter, Lei Wuxing immediately waved at him and said. Zi-Chin walked forward and said, I don't think so. I'm used to being alone. Lei Wuxing said, here's the thing. When we enter the inner world this time, we will first occupy a place as a teleportation camp. Next, we will divide the area by means of command flags. Whoever successfully occupies the area will insert the command flag there. How much area the command flag can activate depends entirely on their strength. Of course, we still need to guard that area. Zi-Chin said, in that case I'll go with Lei Lan. Also, arrange some people to follow me. Lei Wuxing nodded and was about to hand the command flag to Zi-Chin. Chapter 35:53. Hearing this voice, Zi-Chan immediately turned his head and saw a middle-aged man looking at him indifferently. Lei Wuxing frowned slightly and said, what do you mean? Under everyone's gaze, the middle-aged man stepped forward and said, as everyone knows, the Immortal King armor has extraordinary defense. Once you enter the core area, it will definitely play a great role. Under such circumstances, the Immortal King armor naturally needs to be worn by the strongest person. It's really unwise to give it to a mere 4-star. Many of the other 6-star Holy Spirits nodded in agreement. There were also some who looked a little hesitant. Lei Wuxing did not respond immediately. After taking in everyone's gaze, the middle-aged man said again, of course, I don't mean to belittle Zi-Chin at all. I just think that a 4-star like him is not suitable to wear the Immortal King armor. This time, he has made great contributions to our Holy Thunder clan. I think he has done enough. It's not necessarily a bad thing for him to stay here. After all, he's only a 4-star. Zi-Chen looked at the middle-aged man who was obviously hostile. The other party not only wanted him to lose the Immortal King armor, but also wanted to cut off his path forward. That's right, I also think this is a good idea. After all, Zi-Chin has already made great contributions. There's no need for him to take any more risks. After entering, there will be many dangers. Once he dies inside, all his previous efforts will be wasted. I agree to let Zi-Chin stay. I agree too. Then 5 or 6 people began to express their opinions. The others' expressions changed, and they were hesitant. Lei Wuxing looked at Zi-Chin and said, Zi-Chin, what do you think? Zi-Chin did not hesitate at all and said directly, I don't know what everyone is thinking, but to me, entering the core area has nothing to do with contributions. I only want to do something for the Holy Thunder clan and make whatever contributions I can. The middle-aged man said with a smile, Zi-Chin, we are very touched by your kindness. However, there are many people going in this time. It doesn't matter if we lose one. Zi-Chin said, I've made up my mind. Even if I die in battle, I'm willing. Hearing this, the middle-aged man laughed again. Well said, we really admire you. We naturally don't care about your life or death. But you shouldn't have kept the Immortal King armor on you. And you shouldn't have prevented the Holy Thunder clan from creating an invincible expert for your own selfish reasons. Facing the other party's overbearing attitude, Zi-Chin smiled coldly. Oh, you mean I have to give you the Immortal King armor? The middle-aged man said, It seems that my approach has caused you to have a big misunderstanding or hostility. Don't worry, I don't want the Celestial King armor because I know that my strength is too weak. I feel that the Celestial King armor should be given to Lord. Your Excellency is already powerful. Once you have the Immortal King armor, you will be invincible. As he spoke, the middle-aged man cupped his fists at Lei Wuxing and said, My lord, for the sake of the Holy Thunder clan's future, please don the Immortal King armor and lead us to glory again. A smile appeared at the corner of Lei Wuxing's mouth. My lord, please don the armor. My lord, only when you are strong can we obtain the greatest harvest under your leadership. Those who were anxious to express their stance earlier all spoke up at this moment. Zichen didn't say anything and just looked at these people. Lei Wuxing's gaze swept across the others. These people did not express their stance, so he asked, "What do you all think?" When Lei Wuxing's gaze swept across them, everyone seemed to have understood something. They nodded one after another and then expressed their stance. Obviously, no one objected to Zichen giving the Immortal King armor to Lei Wuxing. "I object." At this moment, a cold voice rang out. It was Lei Wuxuang, who had been sitting in the corner. She said calmly the armor was obtained by Zichen. "What right do you have to give it to whoever you want?" The middle-aged man who spoke first said, "My lord, you have misunderstood. We are not asking for Zichen's Immortal King armor. We just feel that at this time, the Immortal King armor can only unleash its greatest power in the hands of an expert. Of course, both of you have unparalleled combat strength. Anyone can do it, but only the 4-star Zichen can't, because that would be a waste of God's gift." The others nodded again and expressed their opinions with the most sincere hearts. Naturally, they stood on the side of righteousness and put pressure on Zichen. Lei Wuxing nodded slightly and asked, "What's your name?" When Lei Wuxing directly asked for his name, the 6-star Holy Spirit said excitedly, "My lord, my name is Hu Huanshan, from the Holy Thunder Clan's Hu family." Lei Wuxing smiled and said, "You are very good and insightful. So are you." When the people who spoke first heard this, a hint of joy appeared on their faces, especially Hu Huanshan. There was even a hint of unconcealable pride on his face. Although the two of them were at the same cultivation level, he knew his own identity. Being able to gain Lei Wuxing's favor was more important than anything else. Next, he should continue to put pressure on Zichen, thinking that he had found a way to please Lei Wuxing. Unexpectedly, Lei Wuxing waved his hand and said, "All right, this is your command flag. I hope you can do something. I will send someone to follow you. Be careful." Under everyone's shocked expression, Lei Wuxing handed the command flag to Zichen. Zichen took the command flag and nodded slightly at Lei Wuxing. "All right, everyone go back and prepare. Wait for my orders." Lei Wuxing waved his hand, indicating for the crowd to disperse. Hu Huanshan and the others looked at each other in dismay. How could this be? The others who spoke first were also dumbfounded. Zichen was the first to leave. When he reached the door, there was a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. Through this scene, he at least knew who was targeting him or deliberately trying to curry favor with Lei Wuxing. Lei Wuxing seemed kind and easy to talk to, but in reality, every step he took was extremely profound. Zichen had a good impression of him, so there was no need to describe him as shrewd. It could only be said that he had extraordinary wisdom and planning. His personality was completely different from Lei Wuxuang's, but the brother and sister clearly complemented each other. No wonder they came out together. The next step was to wait patiently. During this time, Lei Lan had already heard the news and returned. The reason Zichen had brought her along was naturally to use Lei Lan's perception to increase the harvest of this expedition. Lei Lan came to Zichen's side and said straightforwardly, "The bloodline ancestor looked for me. I only asked for 2 shares." Zichen was stunned when he heard this. Then he thought of the crux of the problem and showed a stunned expression. "Why?" Lei Lan said with a smile, "You can give up many shares for the Holy Thunder Clan. Why can't I give up 3 shares?" Seeing the determination in Lei Lan's eyes, Zichen could only nod. He was willing to give up for the Holy Thunder Clan. Lei Lan naturally had the right to do so. "However, I am not as generous as you. I gave the 3 shares to you, not the clan." Chapter 3554. Zichen looked at Lei Lan and realized that he could not see through her. 3 portions of resources was a huge amount. How could she just give it away like that? Although I also want to repay the Holy Thunder Clan, You've done enough for the Holy Thunder Clan this time, so I'll give you the 3 portions. I think you need these resources more than the Holy Thunder Clan." Lei Lan sat next to Zichen and looked into the distance. Through this incident, we all know that it's hard to do things alone. However, I don't know how to develop my force at all. You're different. You have a world and many trustworthy friends. Therefore, you have the opportunity to develop your force. Zichen sat there and fell silent. This was his only shortcoming at the moment. However, developing a force in the huge Saint Spirit realm was easier said than done. Just treat it as my investment. I hope that if I'm in danger one day, your force or your intelligence organization can save my life. Lei Lan stood up and patted the dust off her body. She said, "Let's go. Remember to be prepared. Our opponents this time are far more than those who call themselves immortals." Zichen understood what Lei Lan meant. Where the flag was placed, there would naturally be friction or battle with other forces. 2 days later, the experts gathered outside the teleportation formation. This was the first time Zichen saw so many 6-star Holy Spirits. They came from various clans of the Holy Thunder Clan. It could be said that the Holy Thunder Clan had really sent a large number of experts for this opportunity. Powerful auras surged, causing the space here to distort. The weakest among them was a 5-star. Their goal this time was not to kill the enemy, but to occupy. 6-star Holy Spirits were the main force. One had to know that a 5-star Holy Spirit was the ruler of a force. However, in this place, they were not even considered cannon fodder. As for the other low-level existences, most of them were reduced to miners, mining for the opportunities here. Lei Wuxing and Lei Wushuang stood at the front. Behind them were dozens of captains. Among these people, Zichen was the most eye-catching. Other than the golden armor, there was also his cultivation level. In a situation where all 5 stars were cannon fodder, he, a 4-star, was a captain-level existence. Naturally, this would attract the attention of countless people. Lei Lan stood behind Zichen. She was also a 4-star, and she attracted a portion of the attention for Zichen. Behind Lei Lan was the team that Lei Wuxing had arranged for him. There were close to 300 of them. Among them, there were close to 100 6-star Saint Spirits, while the rest were 5-star Saint Spirits. These nearly 100 6-star Saint Spirits were divided into teams of 10, each with their own 5-star Saint Spirits. It could be said that behind each captain there were 10 small teams and 10 command flags, which represented that each person could control 10 regions. The teleportation formation in front of them lit up. At the same time, a strange vibration flew across the sky and into the space. This was the signal sent out by the various factions. Lei Wuxing said, "Everyone, it's time to go." Without too many words of encouragement, as the publicly acknowledged strongest person this time, he took the lead and stepped into the teleportation array. Lei Wushuang followed, closely behind him, and disappeared. Immediately afterward, the other captains led their respective teams and walked into the huge teleportation array. The same scene was playing out on the other 17 planets. Zichen did not go in immediately. Wearing the Immortal King armor, he looked back at his temporary subordinates and said, "Although we did not know each other before, as long as we step into this place, our goal is the same, and our interests will be linked. For the Holy Thunder Clan and for our own interests, I hope that everyone can do their best. We will follow your orders, my lord." These Saint Spirits, whose cultivation level was higher than Zichen, said in unison. After coming here, they had heard too many things about Zichen. Although Zichen was only a 4-star, he had killed many 6-stars. Even the Holy Star Clan, which was also one of the 4 great sacred clans, had a powerful 6-stars killed by Zichen. And this time, when they heard that the leader was Zichen, and that Zichen was still wearing the Immortal King armor, many people were looking forward to this trip. Because this trip to the depths would be full of dangers, and death was inevitable, the Holy Thunder Clan also gave them great benefits. For example, After discovering resources, they could distribute them according to a certain proportion. It was like the share that Zi-Chin got in this world, but they did not get as much. But it should be known that the world inside was bigger. Once a high-quality mineral vein was found, even if the share was divided into hundreds or thousands of pieces, getting one of them would still be an extremely huge number. Therefore, at this moment, everyone's hearts were connected. In other words, everyone's interests were connected. Zi-Chun turned around and entered the teleportation formation. In a flash of light, the people he brought all crossed over to another planet that was forcibly broken open. When they arrived here, the expected battle did not break out, and there were no screams. The world was silent. Even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Zi-Chin stood in the air and looked ahead. Lei Lan stood beside him. Behind the two of them was his team. Only a few miles away, there were other teams. Everyone stood there in silence. At the end of their vision, there was nothing. He released his spiritual senses and found that there was nothing in this world. It was like a flat world. Even the basic mountains and rivers did not appear. Everyone was stunned. There were many resources on the 18 planets in the periphery, but why was there nothing in the depths? Where was everyone? At least there should be someone, right? As far as the eye could see, it was empty. Just as everyone was stunned, a ray of light appeared in front of them. The ray of light suddenly appeared and turned into a person. It was a tall, middle-aged man wearing a snow-white robe, standing with his hands behind his back. The tens of thousands of holy spirits who came to this world were all looking at him at this moment. The middle-aged man smiled and said, "You're finally here. The owner of the 18 immortal king armors can come to the immortal city to receive the reward you deserve." Everyone looked at each other. Where was the immortal city? "I know why you're here. If you want to reach the place where the final reward is, you have to wear the immortal armors. But only the 18 immortal king armors can open the final reward." The holy spirits looked at each other, obviously not understanding what the middle-aged man said. "I'll wait for you in the immortal city. Enjoy yourselves." With that, the middle-aged man disappeared into thin air. The surrounding space suddenly began to distort, as if the door to another world had opened. Countless rays of light surged out from it. All the rays of light instantly transformed into strange beasts or immortal beasts. There were countless of them. Moreover, every immortal beast had a powerful aura, even more powerful than the ones in the periphery. As soon as these immortal beasts appeared, they attacked the holy spirits. Battle cries rang out in an instant. At the same time, the surrounding area also changed. Some places became towering mountains. Some became sunken lands, some mountain ranges, rivers, lakes, and all kinds of dangerous places. It could be said that this was the true appearance of this place. Kill! Under the leadership of the captains, the holy spirits of the various factions charged at the immortal beasts. Chapter 35:55. The immortal beasts that had suddenly appeared were weaker than the holy spirits. However, there were so many of them that they could be said to be endless. As soon as the battle began, they had the absolute upper hand. Countless immortal beasts appeared around Zi-Chin at the same time. Facing these immortal beasts, he shouted, "Form a defense formation in small groups. We must ensure everyone's safety." At this moment, Zi-Chan was holding a divine spear and wearing a golden armor. The immortal beasts below him roared loudly. They were extremely eye-catching. The holy spirits behind him quickly began to form a defense formation. However, the immortal beasts had appeared so suddenly that the holy spirits did not have time to react. These immortal beasts had appeared all around them. Moreover, they were very powerful. They had caught the holy spirits off guard. The group behind Zi-Chin quickly became chaotic. Noticing this, Zi-Chen's holy talismans immediately flew out. They were all 4-star holy talismans and were heavenly saint arms. After they appeared, they flew toward the chaotic battlefield according to Zi-Chen's instructions. Pa, pa, pa. The holy talismans shattered one after another. Then they transformed into giant arms and swept forward. Although the heavenly saint arms were 4-star holy talisman masters, Fu Lao had clearly said that they were no weaker than 5-star holy talisman masters. Moreover, with the support of Zi Chen's unique soul, the heavenly saint arm's power had become even stronger. Bang! 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 The immortal beasts were directly sent flying. Their defense was amazing. Zi Chen's attacks did not hurt them, but they were able to send them flying. This bought some time for the Holy Spirits. In a short period of time, Zi Chen threw out nearly 50 heavenly saint arms. Only then did they resolve the crisis in the group. The 10 groups had all gathered and formed an effective defense. Then they began to counterattack. Immortal beasts died one after another. Then their bodies disappeared into thin air and turned into immortal stones of different sizes. The moment they saw those immortal stones, everyone's eyes lit up. At this moment, Zi Chen's voice rang out. Fight with all your strength. As long as we are alive, we have plenty of resources. Lei Lan had been standing beside Zi Chen. She looked very nervous. In this place, she, who was only a 4-star cultivator, could not do anything to these immortal beasts. Zi Chen observed his surroundings as another holy talisman flew out in front of him. This time it was a ghost spirit. The 3 sheets formed an array. 30 of them flew toward the nearby immortal beasts. The holy talisman shattered and turned into 3 little ghosts, which then entered the immortal beast's mind. In the next moment, the immortal beast began to roll over. Black light would occasionally shoot out from its head, and in just a moment it was no longer breathing. Then its body disappeared, leaving behind an immortal stone the size of a human head. This was the largest immortal stone in the core region so far. A palm-sized ball of soul light entered Zi Chen's sea of knowledge and strengthened his soul. The cries of the immortal beasts continued to echo in the air. After consuming 30 saint talismans, Zi Chen successfully killed 10 immortal beasts, leaving behind 10 head-sized immortal stones where they had died. Behind them, many saint spirits were shocked when they saw the scene. Many of them had heard of Zi Chen killing immortal beasts, but none of them had seen it with their own eyes. Now, it was an eye-opener for them. The next 51 ghost spirit holy talismans flew out in groups of 3 and flew toward the 17 immortal beasts. Without any accidents, the 17 immortal beasts died. These immortal beasts were much more powerful than those outside, but Zi Chen's ghost spirit holy talismans were also much more powerful. Facing the siege of all the immortal beasts, the power and drawbacks of the ghost spirit holy talismans were on full display. It was so powerful that it could kill an immortal beast with a 100% success rate and maximize its power. The drawback was that the number was limited. There were only 81 sheets at a time, and he had to redraw them after using them up. If he could use them endlessly, then in theory, Zi Chen could kill all the immortal beasts in an instant. After killing 27 immortal beasts, there were still other immortal beasts around. They all rushed toward Zi Chen, not giving him any time to redraw the talismans. Therefore, Zi Chen held the battle spear in his hand and charged forward. He began to mobilize the power around him. With the help of the immortal beast, he instantly arrived beside an immortal beast and stabbed forward with the battle spear in his hand. Poof! The immortal beast's head was pierced. It let out a scream and died. The dead immortal beast's body began to decompose into countless light spots, and then left behind an immortal stone. The size of this immortal stone was smaller than before, but it was still bigger than the others, perhaps because it was a one-hit kill. Lei Lan had been following behind Zi Chen and was responsible for picking up the immortal stones. At the moment, her perception was not of any use, because they did not even have a place to stand. Everyone was fighting bitterly, and it was even more impossible to plant a command flag. Poof! 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 Zi Chen's figure was like lightning, wandering among the immortal beasts and constantly stabbing. As the long spear passed, immortal beasts were killed one after another. Lei Lan followed behind, constantly picking up the spoils of war left behind by Zichen along the way. The saint spirits who were paying attention to the battle were all astonished by the terrifying destructive power of the attack. Wearing the immortal king armor and holding a battle spear, Zichen's lethality was indeed very terrifying, but now he was also exhausted. Looking at the endless number of immortal beasts, he suddenly put away his battle spear and retreated. Lei Lan, come here. At the same time, he called Lei Lan back. If not for his protection, Lei Lan would probably be torn apart by the endless immortal beasts here in an instant. Lei Lan retreated to Zichen's side and saw that Zichen immediately took out 9 defensive saint talismans and formed the 9 extreme defensive array. Stay inside and don't come out, Zichen said, and then began to form the seal. When he was forming the seal, he closed his eyes and a strange soul power spread out. Under such circumstances, Zichen's vision became clearer when he looked around. Vaguely, he seemed to have entered a strange state. As the seal fell, the sky suddenly lit up and lightning fell. The first lightning, which was close at hand, fell outside the defense and hit an immortal beast. The immortal beast's body was shining, and the light came from inside out as if it was a lightning beast. In the next moment, its vitality was extinguished and it died. An immortal stone the size of a human head floated in the air. Zichen still had his eyes closed. The second lightning fell from the sky and landed behind him. There was an immortal beast there that wanted to attack from behind. The lightning fell, but there was no earth-shattering sound, not even a terrifying fluctuation. It only caused a ripple. The second immortal beast died and turned into an immortal stone the size of a human head. Zichen used the lightning controlling technique to kill 2 immortal beasts consecutively, but he didn't use any energy. At this moment, a few more immortal beasts quickly pounced on Zichen. The sky lit up again. Chapter 3556. Ever since Zichen obtained the lightning controlling technique, he would use this technique to kill his enemies. This was also his most powerful trump card. However, when he obtained the Holy Lightning Bone refining technique, the existence he met told him that he could try to use the lightning controlling technique to kill his enemies. Zichen did not understand at that time, but he did as he was told. Whenever he had the chance, he would use the lightning controlling technique to kill some low-level existences. All this time, the lightning controlling technique had not changed at all. Until last time, when he used the lightning controlling technique to kill several 5-star holy spirits in succession. At that time, the lightning controlling technique showed its power for the first time. Within the range of his spiritual senses, as long as he locked onto a person, a bolt of lightning would definitely fall from the sky. This time, facing many immortal beasts, Zichen used the lightning controlling technique again. Then the lightning controlling technique showed a second change, and that was the number. There was no longer just 1 bolt of lightning that fell. A total of 5 bolts of lightning fell from the sky and landed around Zichen, hitting 5 immortal beasts, respectively. These 5 immortal beasts were glowing all over as they floated in midair. Then their vitality was extinguished, and they turned into crystals the size of a human head. The number of immortal beasts killed by the lightning controlling technique was actually the same as the Holy Spirit talisman. During this time, Zichen still had his eyes closed, and he was only controlling the lightning through his perception. After the 5 bolts of lightning, another 3 bolts fell, and the 3 immortal beasts nearby died. After the 3, there were 5 more. Lei Lan stood beside Zichen, looking at the scene outside the defensive talisman formation in shock. One after another, immortal beasts were struck by lightning and died. Not a single one was spared. However, in her perception, the power of these lightning bolts was not strong. There was not even a strong fluctuation, but they could easily kill these immortal beasts. In the sky, lightning flashed continuously. Around Ziqin, immortal stones were floating one after another. They were all the size of a human head and emitted a strange light. Around them, many holy spirits from other teams were also looking sideways. After seeing so many high-quality immortal stones, they were all shocked. Of course, there were also many people who had greed in their eyes. Unfortunately, no one could step forward at this time because there were many immortal beasts around everyone. Among them, a large portion of them were fighting for themselves. There were people like Ziqin who reacted extremely quickly and immediately ordered the team behind them to form a defensive line, but not many. By the time they realized that something was wrong and joined forces to defend, their losses were already not small. Big brother Hong Tian, look over there. On the battlefield, Xiao Wu obtained a fist-sized immortal stone after killing one of the immortal beasts. He put away the immortal stone and turned his head to look into the distance. He saw the light that was constantly descending from the sky. What kind of lightning skill is that? How could he be so powerful? After fighting for so long, his aura hasn't been depleted at all? Xiao Wu was moved. At this time they were a team of 7, and behind them was a group of people. These people were reinforcements from the Lei Zheng family. Since the bloodline ancestor had forbade the Lei Zheng family from interfering in this matter, Lei Zheng Hongtian took these people and landed on another planet. At this time, looking at the many high-quality immortal stones floating around Ziqin, his face was very gloomy, and there was an unconcealable killing intent in his eyes. If it weren't for this damned guy, how could he have fallen into such a situation? At present, he was slightly struggling to deal with these immortal beasts, but Ziqin was so relaxed. This was too strange. Lei Zhang Hongtian looked back at Xiao Wu and said, "Send a message to Hu Huanshan. We can't let that guy have it too easy." Xiao Wu nodded and then retreated. On the chaotic battlefield, there were countless immortal beasts. Only the place where Ziqin was standing was empty. Dozens of immortal stones the size of a human head were floating around him. They were like light balls, bright and dazzling, illuminating the surroundings. Ziqin still had his eyes closed. The talisman array, formed by the holy talisman, had not been attacked so far. Behind him, the holy spirits in the team looked at Ziqin in shock. This battle prowess was really too strong. At this time, Ziqin had entered a mysterious state. In this state he felt invincible, as if he could control everything. Vaguely, he seemed to understand the true essence of the lightning controlling art. However, there seemed to be a layer of mist blocking him, making him unable to see the truth. Those immortal beasts no longer approached. Ziqin's soul automatically extended and locked on to the target again. Thunder rumbled and lightning bolts fell. The sound was not loud and the power did not feel strong. However, with each lightning bolt, an immortal beast died. At this moment, everyone who noticed this scene was very shocked. The lightning bolts were still extending. Ziqin's thoughts changed a little. It seemed that he could vaguely see the true essence of the lightning controlling art. At this time, there was an arrogant soul aura in the range of his spiritual sense. He quickly rushed in, grabbed a head-sized immortal stone, and said coldly, "Ziqin, you've crossed the line." His voice was very loud, like the thunder from the 9 heavens. It was very loud and clear. Waves of sound waves spread. Ziqin withdrew his spiritual sense and opened his eyes. There was a look of confusion in his eyes, as if he was a little absent-minded. At this moment, there was more regret in his expression. Ziqin did not know where this regret came from. The confusion in his eyes gradually disappeared, and his thoughts returned. The scene that had just happened flashed through his mind quickly. He knew the reason for his regret. Turning his head, Ziqin's eyes flashed with a cold light, and countless murderous intent surged around him. At such a close distance, Lei Lan felt the murderous intent, and his body could not help but tremble. "Ziqin, you've crossed the line. This is my territory." The one who spoke was Hu Huanshan. At this moment, there was a flag in front of him. Countless lightning bolts were released from the flag, covering an area of 10,000 feet. At this moment, the flag was still slowly expanding, extending towards the side. Within the range of the flag, Hu Huanshan was very pleased with himself as he collected the immortal stones that Ziqin had dropped. "Damn it, that's clearly our spoils of war," Lei Lan said angrily when he saw the scene. Ziqin removed the talisman array above his head and then waved his sleeve. The floating immortal stones all around flew towards him. Ziqin glanced at Hu Huanshan indifferently. The other party looked at Ziqin provocatively, as if to say, "What can you do to me? Let's go." After collecting everything, Ziqin motioned for Lei Lan to follow. At the same time, he also ordered the team behind him to retreat. Obviously, this place had been occupied by Hu Huanshan. In order to target him, the other party was willing to waste a flag. "Ziqin, quickly come and help me take down the camp. Your team will be credited with a great merit." Chapter 35:57. As the leader, Lei Wuxing's first priority was to ensure a safe and secure base. Only with a base would the Holy Spirits have a way out. Therefore, he and Lei Wuxuang had been looking for a suitable place to set up camp from the start. Just as the two of them found a suitable campsite, not only were there many immortal beasts around, there were even immortals. There were 3 of them. All 3 were clad in armor and wielding weapons. Manipulating energy that was distinctly different from that of the Ling clan, they launched an attack. In the blink of an eye, several 6-star holy spirits were gravely injured. Many of them were core disciples. If not for Lei Wuxing and Lei Wuxuang's timely rescue, this team of 6-star holy spirits might have been wiped out in an instant. 2 against 3 wasn't much of a problem, but the enemy's armor had an extremely strong defense. The 2 of them couldn't break through it in a short time. Therefore, Lei Wuxing ordered Ziqin to come over. It was naturally easier for them to fight 3 against 3. Coincidentally, there was also a small incident on Ziqin's side. What's the meaning of this? Lei Wuxuang, who'd also noticed the commotion, asked coldly after sending an immortal flying with a punch. They seem to be messing around, but everything is within the bounds of the rules. In the midst of battle, Lei Wuxing said coolly, "Even you and I aren't in a position to criticize each other. After all, that place belongs to us now." Lei Wuxuang was exasperated. That rundown place that no one occupies? These people are a disgrace to the Holy Thunder Clan. Lei Wuxing didn't say anything, but there was a hint of coldness beneath his impassive expression. Clearly, he'd been angered by Hu Huanshan's actions, but as the leader, he could only suppress his anger as long as the other party didn't break the rules. Ziqin had arrived. The moment he'd heard the summons, he'd flown in their direction. This time, Lei Lan didn't follow him, but was guarded by a group of experts behind him. They stared at Ziqin's back, and their expressions were all very excited. This was because Lei Wuxing had mentioned the word contribution earlier. As long as they successfully took down the camp, their team would be able to obtain the first reward. The credit wasn't Ziqin's alone, but the entire team's. How could they not be excited? The temporary leader said excitedly, "Everyone advance slowly. Be careful and try to keep up with the leader's pace." At this point, Ziqin had already reached the front and was about to meet the 3 immortals. Everyone was extremely excited. Based on the battle prowess Ziqin had displayed, they were almost certain to obtain the first prize. However, Ziqin, who had everyone's expectations, did not display his terrifying battle prowess and annihilate the enemy as everyone had expected. When he was still 1,000 feet away from the battlefield, he suddenly stopped and took out a blank holy talisman amidst the aftermath of the battle. There was also that holy pen called Unfathomable. What the hell? After seeing Ziqin's action, everyone was stunned. Those who had been excited for Ziqin were now dumbfounded. Why didn't the leader display his powerful means to kill the enemy? Was this the time to draw talismans? Ziqin, who was wearing the immortal king armor, was already the center of attention. His actions were also seen by many people. What a bunch of tricks! Lei Zhanghongtian sneered and said, "Tell Hu Huanshan that he did well. When we return, the Lei Zheng family and the Hu family will naturally have business dealings. Also, he should continue to work hard. I will compensate him for the losses he suffered this time." On the other side, Hu Huanshan's face lit up when he heard the news. Being able to get closer to the Lei Zheng family was extremely important for the Hu family's future development. Compared to the future, losing some opportunities here was nothing. He turned around and said to the team behind him, "Everyone hurry up and advance." The group of holy spirits behind them were stunned when they heard this. Advance? What should we do, my lord? It was obvious that Hu Huanshan had wasted a command flag. According to the original plan, they should take down this place and guard it. We'll talk about it later. There's still a great opportunity waiting for us. After saying that, Hu Huanshan took the lead and rushed forward. Ziqin, what are you doing? Lei Wushuang, who was in the middle of a battle, turned around to look at Ziqin after defeating the enemy. Ziqin said indifferently, "I'm drawing talismans. Didn't you see?" At this moment, a defensive barrier appeared above Ziqin's head. He stood in the middle of the barrier and drew talismans on the holy talisman paper. The unfathomable holy talisman brush could greatly increase the success rate of drawing talismans. It was truly unpredictable. In addition to Ziqin's unique soul and the ghost spirit holy talisman, Ziqin was very relaxed. "You did it on purpose, didn't you?" Lei Wushuang said unhappily. "As a holy talisman master, why didn't you prepare a battle holy talisman before coming here?" Ziqin said indifferently, "You wouldn't understand even if I told you." Impudent thief! Lei Wushuang was enraged. She sent 2 enemies flying with 2 punches and was about to find trouble with Ziqin. Unfortunately, her opponents quickly caught up. "This damn tortoiseshell!" Lei Wushuang couldn't help but curse, but her eyes were fixed on Ziqin. It was unknown if she was indirectly insulting him, or it could be a pun. Of course, Ziqin wouldn't compete with her. If he wanted to win in a short time, he could only use the ghost spirit divine talisman. In the previous battle, he had used up all his ghost spirit divine talismans, so he needed to draw new ones. In contrast to Lei Wushuang's anger, Lei Wuxing's expression was much calmer. He looked at his opponent in front of him and said, "These defensive armors are really difficult to deal with. It should be good to wear one. Ant, how dare you covet my immortal armor? Die!" His opponent's eyes flashed coldly as he slashed forward with the long saber in his hand. Chi! The saber light broke through the air with a powerful force. Lei Wuxing clenched his fist and punched out. Countless thunderbolts circled around his fist. The saber light exploded, and Lei Wuxing's figure retreated continuously. A strange expression appeared on his face. Immortal saber slash. His opponent shouted again. Another saber light flashed between heaven and earth. This time, its power was even more terrifying. Lei Wuxing's expression was much more serious. "You have to hurry up. I think you'll be in big trouble if you delay any longer." Lei Wuxing suddenly spoke. Naturally, he was talking to Ziqin. Boom! At the same time, he unleashed his full power and activated his strongest combat power. At this time, the sacred talisman array around Ziqin disappeared. With 81 ghost spirit divine talismans floating in front of him, he said with a smile, "Give me one." Here, in a flash, Lei Wushuang appeared before an immortal race being. With a single punch, the immortal race being was sent flying towards Ziqin. Chapter 3558. When Ziqin saw his opponent flying back, the 81 ghost spirit sacred talismans in front of him immediately flew towards him. The 81 holy talismans were about to envelop his head. Who knew that at this moment a bolt of lightning suddenly flew from behind, heading straight for Zi Chen's ghost spirit, Saint Talisman. "Sir, I'm here to help you." It was Hu Huanshan. Although he came in the name of helping, the moment he attacked, he went straight for Zi Chen's ghost spirit, sacred talismans. A saber light appeared between heaven and earth, leaving a clear mark in the air. It was about to tear apart the 81 holy talismans that Zi Chen had just completed. Facing such a situation, Zi Chen's expression didn't change. With a thought, the holy talismans shattered and 81 ghost spirits appeared, forming a holy talisman array and dancing in the air. The saber light approached and slashed at the ghost spirit array. "Oh no, I didn't see it. I thought Zi Chen hadn't made a move yet. I'm so sorry." Just as the saber light was about to land, Hu Huanshan's apologetic voice rang out. "It's okay. You can go back now," Zi Chen said indifferently, not pointing out his opponent's true intentions. When the saber light arrived, it directly pierced through the ghost spirit array and flew into the distance. The ghost spirit array wasn't damaged at all. It kept shrinking and headed towards the opponent's sea of consciousness. Because it was the second time he was controlling it, and the opponent was obviously not as strong as he was during the Immortal War, the ghost spirit array shrank very quickly. During this time, the opponent was rapidly dodging, trying to get rid of the ghost spirit array above his head. However, the ghost spirit array followed him like a shadow and couldn't be shaken off. "Get lost!" The immortal roared and slashed at the sky with his immortal sword. He attacked again and again, but he couldn't hurt the ghost spirit array at all. Hu Huanshan stood in the distance. His expression turned ugly when he couldn't destroy Zi Chen's talisman array. However, he quickly revealed a smile and said, "Brother Zi Chen is really powerful. This holy talisman array can actually ignore defense. It seems like it's a soul attack." Zi Chen's eyes turned cold. The opponent directly pointed out the weakness of the ghost spirit array. His intentions were obvious. The Celestials naturally understood the meaning behind his words and prepared to use soul attacks. Lei Wushuang's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. He was prepared to teach Hu Huanshan a lesson. Lei Wuxing slowly shook his head, stopping his little sister's actions. "Why? As the leader, can't you tell that he has ulterior motives?" Lei Wushuang asked through voice transmission. Clearly, he knew the severity of the matter and did not question loudly. "Don't interfere in this matter," Lei Wuxing said. "As a core member of the Extreme, you must take the interests of the Holy Thunder Clan as your responsibility. You must not participate in the conflicts of other clans." "But he's causing trouble. It's obvious that he's affecting the interests of the Holy Thunder Clan." Unparalleled thunder transmitted his voice, unconvinced. "The main cause of this matter is still the family conflict. Even if there is a conviction, it should be after the war, not now." Lei Wuxing transmitted his voice. "Besides, it's just a reminder. With Zi Chen's strength, he shouldn't be helpless." Just as the two of them were transmitting their voices, Zi Chen rode on the immortal beast and flew forward, arriving in front of the Celestial. He jumped down from the immortal beast's back. The immortal beast turned into a ray of light and disappeared. He punched forward. Dazzling lightning light was released from his fist, and a powerful aura surged. The Celestial naturally recognized the Immortal King armor. He said coldly, "You came at the right time. It's time for this Celestial to change my armor." As soon as he finished speaking, the fist light arrived. There was a loud boom. The Celestial's body flew backward. Zi Chen, who was wearing the Immortal King armor, was no longer as strong as before. The Celestial found it difficult to block, let alone take the initiative to attack. After one punch, another punch, booms sounded continuously, and the Celestial was constantly pushed back. Above his head, 81 ghostly spirits followed him like shadows. They were still shrinking. After 8 punches in a row, the ghost spirits disappeared into the Celestial's sea of consciousness. The Celestial felt a strong threat of death. The aura around him became violent. He wanted to kill Zi-Chin forcibly before his soul was destroyed. Zi-Chin punched again. Boom! The Celestial was defeated and flew backward, coughing up blood. In the next moment, his soul was destroyed. This was the first time Lei Wuxing and Lei Wuxuang saw Zi-Chin destroy an enemy with their own eyes. They didn't expect him to be so fast. One had to know that the two of them had not broken through the defense of the immortal armor until now. The Celestial died. This time he didn't leave behind an immortal stone, but a complete immortal armor. Although the grade of this armor was not as good as the immortal king armor on Zi-Chin, it was still extremely extraordinary. Zi-Chan went forward and put it away. He turned to Lei Wuxing and asked, "Do you need help?" "No need. We can still deal with one person." Before Lei Wuxing could reply, Lei Wuxuang said unhappily. Her eyebrows were furrowed, and her pretty face showed anger. She reached out and pointed at her forehead. A surge of soul energy surged out, bringing with it a bolt of lightning. With the appearance of this bolt of lightning, there was an indescribable feeling in the air, as if someone had sighed. This was the Thunder Soul's sigh, a soul technique that Lei Wuxuang had mastered. When Lei Wuxing saw this, he shook his head. His little sister's competitive nature had not changed. However, it was indeed time for him to use his full strength. A saber flew out from his forehead. It was only half a saber, but it emitted an ancient aura as it flew forward. This was the saint's spiritual weapon that he had obtained after a narrow escape. Unlike those offensive weapons, this was a pure soul weapon that only destroyed souls. It was powerful, but the only downside was that it consumed too much of his soul. Every time he used it, he would be weakened for a period of time. Now that Zi-Chun had dealt with his opponent and had nothing to worry about, he could use it without any worries. Zi-Chin had just kept the immortal armor when the siblings each displayed their strongest moves. The next two immortals were killed in an instant. Zi-Chen was a little stunned. Lei Wuxuang, who was clearly weakened, glared at Zi-Chen and said, "Humph, you really think we can't deal with our opponents?" She took the immortal armor and started refining it on the spot. The broken soul weapon flew back to Lei Wuxing's side and disappeared. Lei Wuxing, who was even weaker than his sister, nodded at Zi-Chin and started refining the immortal armor as well. Due to the terrifying shock waves from the previous battle, no immortal beasts could get close. Looking at the weakened duo, Zi-Chin said, "This mission is considered completed, right?" "You've done well," Lei Wuxing said. Zi-Chin nodded and said, "In that case, I'll go deeper." "Be careful," Lei Wuxing reminded. "You too. Immortal stones can replenish energy. It's not good to be weak here." With that, Zi-Chin left behind 2 head-sized immortal stones that he had obtained earlier. Chapter 35:59. Zi-Chen left 2 pieces of high-quality immortal stones, one for each of them. Lei Wuxing did not refuse this kindness and gave one to Lei Wuxuang. The other party snorted coldly, as if he was dissatisfied that Zi-Chen had taken all the limelight. "Hurry up and refine it. If we consume too much energy, it will be detrimental to the whole tribe," Lei Wuxing ordered. "In this place, we can't consume too much energy." Lei Wuxuang was even more dissatisfied because Zi-Chin had left as if nothing had happened after killing the enemy, while their 2 powerful leaders had consumed a lot of energy and still needed to recover. It seemed that Zi-Chin was more powerful than the 2 of them. Don't think too much. His Saint Talisman is very unique, and he is also a Saint Talisman master. Naturally, he has an advantage over us. Lei Wuxing knew what his little sister was thinking and smiled faintly as he comforted her. Zi-Chin handed the immortal armor to Leilon. With the immortal armor, regardless of whether Leilon could kill the enemy or not, she would be able to defend herself. Even if there was danger, Lei Lan would be able to withstand it. Moreover, whether they would be able to make a great contribution depended on how sharp Lei Lan's senses were. At this time, the other factions were also flying forward. Up until now, other than the camps that they had set up, no one had put down the flag. Hu Huanshan was the first to waste it. His failure to stop Zichen made Hu Huanshan's face a little gloomy. Therefore, after Zichen went deeper, he led the team and followed. "That guy who ruined everything is still behind us," Lei Lan said in a low voice. Zichen had already noticed Hu Huanshan, but it was not the time to fight him, so he did not pay attention to him. However, he knew very well what the other party was planning, and the corner of his mouth could not help but curl into a cold smile. "Since you are courting death, don't blame me for being impolite." Zichen's eyes flashed coldly. Zichen walked to the front of the team, fighting fiercely with the immortal beasts that appeared from time to time. As they went deeper, the number of immortal beasts decreased significantly. Following behind him, Lei Lan released her spiritual senses and used her special perception to sense the places where there might be something strange. During this time, they never set down the command flag. At the same time, Hu Huanshan, who had been following behind with his team, never dropped the command flag. After advancing for nearly 10,000 li, Lei Lan suddenly stopped. She looked at Zichen and said, "I think this place is not bad." Zichen nodded, and a flag appeared in his hand. Who knew that at this moment a loud and clear voice came from behind. "Haha, this is a good place. We'll drop the flag here." It was Hu Huanshan. He decisively put down the flag. Then the flag began to emit light. Lightning surged out like a protective barrier. In the blink of an eye, it spread to 100 miles away and enveloped Zichen's location. "Haha, Zichen, I'm sorry, but this place caught my eye first." Hu Huanshan's laughter rang out again. In Zichen's team, many people turned around and stared coldly at Hu Huanshan. This guy was obviously doing it on purpose. Zichen glanced at him indifferently and said, "Let's go." Everyone continued to move forward. Hu Huanshan's flag covered an area of 200 li. After moving forward for another few hundred li, Lei Lan pointed at the ground and said, "There might be resources here that aren't any weaker than before." "Are you sure?" Zichen asked. "Of course." Lei Lan nodded. This time, before Zichen took out the flag, Hu Huanshan's laughter rang out again from behind. A new flag fell on the ground, and the light spread in this direction. Lei Lan turned around and glared at Hu Huanshan. "Hu Huanshan, you've gone too far." Hu Huanshan's smile did not fade. "Gone too far? Why don't I think so? I'm contributing to the Holy Thunder Clan. Who told you not to come to a conclusion earlier?" Zichen said coldly, once, twice. "I don't want a third time. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Hu Huanshan patted his chest and said, I'm so scared." "What? You still dare to attack me?" "Zichen, it's not that I want to criticize you, but in terms of contributions to the Holy Thunder Clan, you're far inferior to me this time. Didn't you just help Milord build the camp? I'm the one who occupied 3 resource lands for the Holy Thunder Clan. You're courting death." Zichen's eyes were filled with murderous intent. The faces of the holy spirits who followed Zichen were incomparably ashen. Lei Lan pulled the furious Zichen and said, "Let's go. There must be other resource lands in the depths." Zichen's anger was still difficult to quell, but it was obviously impossible to kill the other party just like that. He snorted coldly and said indifferently, "Very good. But can you guarantee that there's really good stuff in there?" After saying that, Zichen smiled coldly and turned to leave. The complacent look on Hu Huanshan's face froze. Of course, he didn't know how to perceive, nor did he know whether these places were good or bad. Everything was because he heard the message. But soon, a smile appeared on his face, because in the message that just came, Zichen was cursing, and his face was very ugly. The holy spirits in his troop were all dejected and dejected. Who didn't know that the reason why Zichen chose the smallest planet was not because the guardian there was weak, but because there were more resources in that world. And so many resources were all thanks to Lei Lan. While moving forward, Lei Lan looked at Zichen and said helplessly, "They're following us. What should we do?" The anger on Zichen's face didn't dissipate for a long time. He said coldly, "Let's speed up and go deeper. Leave them far behind. This stinking bug is really despicable." The team naturally sped up, but Hu Huanshan also sped up and followed behind. "Change direction," Zichen said. The team began to change direction, and the other party also changed direction. This repeated several times, and Hu Huanshan was like a tail, following behind them. During this time, Zichen had 2 opportunities to plant the flag, but Hu Huanshan beat him to it. This made Zichen so angry that he gritted his teeth. "Haha, what a coincidence. I found another good place." Hu Huanshan laughed loudly and used the 6th flag. The flag lit up and instantly covered an area of hundreds of miles. 6 flags meant that they occupied 6 areas. How could Hu Huanshan not be happy? Zichen were really fated. Hu Huanshan was really proud because these places were chosen by Lei Lan. Even if they were half real and half fake, his harvest this time was big enough. Zichen, who was originally angry, turned to look at Hu Huanshan. This time he wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled faintly and said, "Indeed, we're fated." As Zichen's voice fell, a 5-star holy spirit, who seemed to have fallen behind because Zichen was in a hurry, took out a flag and planted it on the ground. Buzz! Chapter 3560. Looking at the smile on Zichen's face, Hu Huanshan couldn't smile anymore. He had a bad feeling in his heart. At that moment, his soul sensed what was happening 1,000 miles away. A 5-star Holy Spirit had inserted a command flag into the ground. The command flag began to glow, enveloping the entire area. Sensing this, Hu Huanshan sneered and said, "It seems like you're not that stupid. You've already prepared for this. Why? Is that the good location you've set your eyes on? Haha, but it just so happens that I have a command flag here." Hu Huanshan turned around and was about to rush in that direction. He was only 1,000 miles away from that place. For a 6-star Holy Spirit, this distance was nothing. As long as he inserted the command flag there, he would definitely gain something. Even if he couldn't eat meat, he believed that he could still drink some soup. However, just as he was about to move, he stopped. This was because at the same time, another command flag lit up. There were a total of 4 command flags, which occupied 1,000 miles of that area. The area covered by the command flag's light was 100 miles away from Hu Huanshan's territory. Seeing this, Hu Huanshan's face became extremely ugly. Clearly, Zichen had already prepared for this. In an instant, that area was sealed off. "Let's go. We'll go back and guard that area." Zichen led his people and started to return. Previously, Hu Huanshan had used the rules to suppress him. Now, he would use the same rules to suppress him. When the other holy spirits saw the smile on Zichen's face, they naturally knew that they had succeeded this time. Moreover, since Zichen wanted to go back and guard himself, it was obvious that that area was a good location with real resources. When he brushed past Hu Huanshan, Zichen said with a smile, "I still have 6 command flags. Guess where I'll put them next?" Hu Huanshan said coldly, "Don't be so smug. According to the rules, you have to guard it for an entire day. If the area you occupy is forcefully taken down, it will belong to someone else." Of course, Zichen knew this rule. He continued to smile and said, "What if I persist?" "Humph. We'll talk about it after you persist." The 2 parted ways. In the other 3 directions, Lei Lan's 3 avatars disappeared one after another after inserting the command flags. There was an unconcealable joy on the face of the real Lei Lan. Zichen transmitted a message to the real Lei Lan, telling him to keep a low profile and not let others see any flaws. Zichen had long guessed that Hu Huanshan's men were in this team, so he deliberately put on a show with Lei Lan. In the process of acting, not only did she continuously consume Hu Huanshan's command flags, but Lei Lan could also better search for places with special resources. It could be said that even if there were resources underground in the places that Hu Huanshan occupied, they wouldn't be any better. Not only did he come here for nothing, but so did the group of holy spirits behind him. Even though the majority of those people were from the Hu clan, there were still many people from other clans. They had only come for the sake of benefits. However, after following Hu Huanshan this time, they had gained nothing. Naturally, there would be resentment in their hearts. After arriving at the area that they occupied, Zichen signaled for the team to disperse. For the rest of the day, everyone had to defend this place. After a day, if they defended this place, it would become the territory of the Holy Thunder clan forever. What's down there? Zichen tried to use his spiritual thoughts to sense, but found nothing, so he asked. Lei Lan shook her head and said, I don't know, but there must be something good. Zichen said, Is it possible that it's a soul-gathering crystal lode? Lei Lan glanced at him and said, What are you thinking about? The soul power that a soul-gathering crystal can attract is very considerable. If a lode appears there, even a fool can see it. Zichen said, So if we find the right place, it will be very easy to find the lode. It's very easy if there is no special seal. But if there is a special seal, it's a different story. Lei Lan said, By the way, how are you going to defend next? First, ask for help. Zichen smiled slightly, seeming to have a well-thought-out plan. Ask for help from whom? Lei Lan asked in confusion. Hu Huanshan. Zichen waved his hand, and a 5-star Holy Spirit came over. Sir, what can I do for you? Go to Hu Huanshan and tell him we need his help, Zichen ordered. Ah, the 5-star Holy Spirit was stunned. Weren't they in conflict? Why should he ask for help from the enemy? Go. By the way, tell him that if he succeeds, we're willing to give him some shares. But the premise is that he must lead his team and come here to defend this place now. Seeing that Zichen didn't seem to be joking, the 5-star Holy Spirit still didn't quite understand Zichen's idea. He could only go to Hu Huanshan and tell him what his lord meant. Hu Huanshan looked at the person and said coldly, What did you say? Say it again. My lord said he needs your help. If you are willing, you can go now. Once it's done, my lord will give you some shares. The 5-star Holy Spirit clearly conveyed Zichen's meaning. How much is some shares? Hu Huanshan suppressed his anger and asked. My lord didn't say. I guess it's just some? The 5-star Holy Spirit thought for a moment and said, Scram, scram. Hu Huanshan was so angry that his body was about to spit fire. Scram now. So you're saying you refuse? The 5-star Holy Spirit asked. He was obviously a stubborn person and needed a clear answer. Go tell that idiot Zichen that even if I, Hu Huanshan, don't get anything, I will never help him. Tell him to give up, and then get the hell out of here. Hu Huanshan was flustered and exasperated. Zichen, you little brat, you've gone too far. The 5-star Holy Spirit left. He was just a messenger anyway. In fact, he still didn't understand why his lord wanted him to say this. He knew that the other party wouldn't agree. Could it be that his lord doesn't like me and found this excuse to get me scolded? As soon as this thought appeared, it was dispelled. A lord who could kill a 6-star Holy Spirit wouldn't be so bored. What an idiot. You want to rope me in with just some shares? Let me tell you, I, Hu Huanshan, want that place. After the 5-star Holy Spirit left, the anger on Hu Huanshan's face disappeared in an instant. Then, a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. After you lose that place, I'll get back at you. In his mind, he had already sketched out a beautiful picture. However, Hu Huanshan came too late and didn't know that Lei Jinghongtian had already sketched out the same picture, but it didn't come true. Tell them that they can act now. Hu Huanshan gave the final order. Then it was time for that beautiful picture to come true. The 5-star Holy Spirit returned with the news. Zichen patted him on the shoulder and said, "Well done. Remember to add one more contribution." The 5-star Holy Spirit's eyes lit up and he became excited. After being scolded by Hu Huanshan, he got one more contribution. Right now, he even had an impulse to go back and let Hu Huanshan scold him a few more times. Zichen looked ahead, his expression turning cold. Chapter 3561. The first wave of enemies were immortal beasts. There were many of them, and they were charging in this direction. It was as if they were being deliberately driven away or attracted by some kind of aura. There was no need for Zichen to say anything. Everyone was ready for battle. Zichen stood in the core area and closed his eyes. He extended his spiritual senses and was able to monitor any place in this area. Then he began to form seals. As the seals fell, a strange wave was emitted from Zichen's body. Lei-Lan, wearing immortal armor, stood beside Zichen to protect him. The immortal beasts rushed forward, and a defensive battle broke out. Zichen's soul was looking everywhere. Once someone was in danger, a bolt of lightning would descend from the sky to save them. It was the lightning manipulation technique. Between heaven and earth, light would appear from time to time. At this moment, outside the chaotic battlefield, teams came one after another and were watching from afar. Among them was Lei Jinghongtian, who led a group of powerhouses. He looked ahead with cold eyes. This time, there must be no mistakes. He exhorted. Xiao Wu, who was next to him, nodded. Don't worry. The news has already spread. Everyone knows the value of the area occupied by Zichen. Those forces knew that there was a great opportunity and have already made preparations. Also, I investigated in advance. Except for Hu Huanshan, there are no other forces of the Holy Thunder clan. So, Zichen won't have any reinforcements in a short time. That's good. Now we'll go first. You stay here and see which force took down this place. When the time comes, send a message to attack. Lei Jinghongtian left with his men. Not long after, Hu Huanshan, who was in the other direction, also left with his men after receiving the news. He had to leave quickly to avoid being punished for not helping. As for the area he occupied previously, no one attacked because there was no corresponding defense there. Obviously, there was nothing good there. Thinking of this, Hu Huanshan's heart was filled with endless killing intent. That damned Zichen had been scheming against him all this time. The number of immortal beasts in the first wave was not small. There were close to 1,000 of them. However, everyone had already received Zichen's orders. They did not need to deliberately defend at the borders. They could retreat as they fought. Thus, the group took their time and cooperated well with each other. It was quite easy for them to fight back. During this period of time, Zichen continued to provide assistance. The lightning that occasionally struck down gave everyone a lot of confidence. Apart from some holy spirits who were injured, no one died. As for the injured, they immediately retreated to the rear and swallowed pills to heal their injuries. Before coming here, they had already made preparations. It took a full 4 hours before the several hundred immortal beasts were all killed. Tens of sacred spirits were injured, but their injuries were not too serious. Their energy consumption was still acceptable. Zichen opened his eyes and said, "Those who have used up a lot of energy, go pick up the spoils. Those who are weak will recover immediately. I guarantee that you will be at your peak." Under normal circumstances, those who consumed less energy would clean up the battlefield, while those who consumed more energy would immediately recover. This way, they would still have the strength to fight when the time came. However, this time, no one in the entire team died because of the lightning that fell at that time. Therefore, they were very confident in Zichen. Then, Zichen began to draw talismans. It was the ghost spirit, Saint Talisman. As he was drawing talismans, Zichen suddenly thought of a problem. His heart moved, and he said, "Those who are good at using their fists to attack, quickly come here and get a Saint Talisman." All the holy spirits were stunned, at their level, who didn't know how to use fists. Zichen said again, "Those who are confident that they can use their fists to injure the enemy, come here and get a Saint Talisman. Those who are confident that they can kill the enemy with their fists, come here and get two." Although the Heavenly Saint Arm was a 4-star Saint Talisman, its effect was not weaker than a 5-star Saint Talisman. Its supporting effect was also very powerful. This time, Zichen had prepared many of them. After the group of holy spirits looked at each other, they stood up one after another and walked towards the center of the area where Zichen was. There were about 30 of them. The number of people was less than expected, so Zichen decided to give each of them 3 talismans. At the same time, he told them how to use the Heavenly Saint Arm, not giving them much time to breathe. Just as Zichen quickly finished drawing 81 ghost spirit Saint Talismans, the enemy came. This time it was not a mortal beast, but the spiritual tribe. After putting away the ghost spirit Saint Talismans, Zichen looked into the distance. There were many enemies. Zichen said in a deep voice, "Retreat into the area. Once the enemy enters our area, kill them without mercy." Everyone was ready for battle. Those who had consumed a lot of energy stayed at the back and slowly recovered. Zichen's figure rose into the air, the immortal king armor on his body shining brightly. "I am Zichen from the Holy Thunder Clan. This area has been occupied by the Holy Thunder Clan. I am warning you to retreat quickly. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy." Zichen's voice resounded in the area. No one paid attention to him. Everyone was moving forward. Zichen's voice rang out again. He said it 3 times in a row. Obviously, this was a warning. Then Zichen waved his hand again, and the people in his team retreated again. A light appeared under Zichen's body, and the immortal beast appeared. At the same time, a war spear appeared in his hand. There were enemies in all directions, and their numbers far exceeded that of Zichen's team. Obviously, many forces had joined forces. They did not have the slightest hesitation and directly broke into the area occupied by Zichen. "Kill them without mercy." Zichen's cold voice resounded in the area. Then, as if he had turned into a lightning bolt, he charged in one direction. "Everyone, it's time for life and death. For the Holy Thunder Clan, and for ourselves, let's fight." Zichen, who was charging forward, was attacked by many spiritual weapons. His figure did not stop at all, and he continued to move forward. He didn't even try to dodge ordinary attacks. Only when he felt threatened would he use extreme speed to dodge. In the blink of an eye, he rushed into the crowd and shouted, "Spear 9!" He thrust his spear forward, and it instantly turned into 9. The 9 spear lights were real, and they surged with a terrifying aura as they rushed into the crowd. There was no need to aim at all. The 9 Holy Spirits' bodies were pierced one after another. The lighter ones were seriously injured, and the heavier ones were killed. After the spear, Zichen's figure dodged. During this time, several attacks still landed on his body, but they were blocked by the immortal king armor. The second attack was still spear 9. He successfully killed 9 people. However, there were too many enemies. Even if Zichen continued to kill like this, it would take a long time. Under such circumstances, his people were bound to be seriously injured. Capture the leader first. Chapter 3562. With this thought in mind, Zichen decided to take action. He released his spiritual senses, but he could not find out which one was the leader. Obviously, the leader of the team had guessed that Zichen would do this before he came here, so he hid himself. Realizing that there was no leader to kill, Zichen took a deep breath. Then he would kill them one by one. It was not easy for the people from the other forces to come here. Killing one meant one less. Zi-Chun did not believe that they would dare to let everyone die here because of this place. Everyone, focus on defense. Zi-Chen's voice reverberated throughout the area as he charged forward. Riding on the immortal beast, his speed was even faster. In an instant, he arrived in front of a 6-star holy spirit and stabbed with his spear. During this time, there were 2 attacks that went straight for Zi-Chin. However, Zi-Chin did not dodge, and his spear did not slow down at all. Poof! The spear pierced through a 6-star holy spirit's body, and a powerful force poured into his body, destroying his life force. In the next moment, Zi-Chin, who had 2 white marks on his body, pulled out his spear and attacked the second 6-star holy spirit. Right now, he only wanted to kill 6-star holy spirits. In the blink of an eye, several 6-star holy spirits were killed. However, more people had already rushed into the central area and fought with Zi-Chen's team. A battle that was even more tragic than the previous one took place again. Zi-Chen's combat power was very strong, but he was only one person. When he could not protect his subordinates, they were injured or killed. However, among them, there were some who were eye-catching. Those were the powerhouses who had activated their heavenly saint arms. Their fists were even more terrifying. Their fists that could have injured their enemies severely were now able to kill them directly. Their attacks that could have killed their enemies were now even more terrifying with the help of their heavenly saint arms. Whoosh! 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 While he was dodging and killing his enemies, Zi-Chun was also surrounded by many 6-star holy spirits. The immortal beast he was riding on was pierced many times, and its speed gradually decreased. After a few breaths of time, the immortal beast was heavily injured. It turned into a beam of light and disappeared. Without the immortal beasts, Zi-Chin kept his battle spear, and a devil blade appeared in his hand. At the same time, a heavenly saint arm flew out and entered his right arm. Whoa! The demonic saber trembled as Zi-Chin drew his saber. A bright saber light drew a huge arc as it chopped forward. Naturally, he would not hold back. With the Celestial King armor, Saint Bones, and Heavenly Energy Saint arms, the 2 6-star saint spirits nearby were sliced in half at the waist. Several people nearby were also sent flying, suffering varying degrees of injuries. It could be said that Zi-Chen's killing power was extremely strong. Right now, he was even willing to consume his energy to kill the enemy in front of him. At this moment, the leaders of the various groups had gathered outside the battlefield. This time, they did not truly participate in the battle. Among the dozen of them, one of them looked extremely pale. This was because Zi-Chen had coincidentally chosen their group as the target to kill. Old Chow, don't be angry. As we have agreed before, even if all of your people die in the battle, we will still give you the biggest share of the opportunity. In addition, after we enter the depths, we will also allocate some people to you. Next to him, a person comforted him. The others also nodded. Of course, everyone was aware of Zi-Chen's combat strength. Therefore, before they entered the battlefield, they had discussed in advance that no matter which force Zi-Chen attacked, they would not retreat at the last minute because of the heavy losses. There will come a time when his strength is exhausted. At that time, we might be able to kill him and obtain the Celestial King armor. Another leader in the crowd said, "Everyone, don't forget the real function of the Celestial King armor. What we need to do now is to guard against Zi-Chen decisively abandoning this place and escaping after consuming too much energy." The 6-star leader named Old Chow said, "Don't worry, our people have already arranged for the surroundings. No matter which direction Zi-Chen runs in, there will be powerhouses to stop him." At this moment, in a relatively distant place, Hu Huanshan's people and Lei Jing Hongtian's people had joined forces. They could not see what was happening on the battlefield. Lei Jing Hongtian asked, "What's the situation now?" Hu Huanshan said with a smile, "Besieged by many forces, we have suffered heavy losses. Judging from the current situation, it is only a matter of time before we lose that area. Then, hesitation appeared on Hu Huanshan's face. He said, Zi Chen's killing power is indeed strong. He can actually kill a 6-star Holy Spirit in an instant. However, he has consumed a lot of energy and should not be able to hold on for too long. Lei Zhang Hongtian sneered when he heard that. No matter how strong a person is, he can't be compared with a team. This time, I want to see how he can break out of this situation. In the end, don't lose the flag territory and his life at the same time. Hu Huanshan said with a smile. According to that guy's greedy character, he will not be willing to leave until he kills to the end. Those forces must have already spread a big net, waiting for him to break out. Zi Chen did not know that there were people outside waiting for him to escape because he had never thought of escaping. More than 26-star Holy Spirits had already died under his demonic saber. If it were any other time, these people would have been scared out of their wits. However, this was not the case this time. Each and every one of them were fearless. Under such circumstances, Zi Chen's individual battle prowess was extremely insignificant. His men had suffered extremely heavy casualties. If this continued, what awaited him was definitely losing the area, and everyone on the battlefield would die in battle. They had come here for the opportunity. They couldn't just walk here and go back home directly. He had to think of a way to break out of this situation. However, at present, with his many powerful means, they could only be of great use in a one-on-one situation. In this kind of group battle, they were helpless. Was he going to lose just like that? Zi Chen was full of unwillingness. He would not forget the excited expressions of those people when they saw him earlier. Obviously, everyone thought that following him would be able to gain great benefits and make great contributions. Naturally, they were full of confidence in Zi Chen. At present, no matter how badly injured they were still fighting bravely without flinching until they died in battle. Looking at everyone who was not afraid of death, how could Zi Chen bear to let them rejoice in vain and gain nothing? However, how could he break out of this situation? At this critical moment, a bright light suddenly flashed through his mind, as if a dense fog was spreading. A holy talisman that he had been comprehending for a long time but had not made any progress appeared in his mind. Roar of Thunder's fury. I did not succeed before. Perhaps there was a problem with my way of thinking. What if I try to comprehend it in a different way? The light flashed in his mind, and Zi Chen's figure suddenly shot up into the sky. He abandoned all his enemies. Is he running away? Many people's eyes lit up, and they immediately sent a message to their leader. Standing in the air, a blank holy talisman paper appeared in front of Zi Chen, and a holy talisman brush appeared in his hand. The talisman paper was 4-star. Chapter 3563. Of course, Zi Chen wouldn't run away. He couldn't abandon these people who trusted him so much. In his mind, the raging thunder talisman appeared. He had been studying this talisman for a long time, but he hadn't been able to learn it. Now that everyone was in danger, he decided to use a different method. The tip of the brush glowed, and Zi Chen started to write. However, as soon as he started to write, the talisman shattered. He had failed. Zi Chen wasn't upset. Instead, there was a hint of joy in his eyes. Previously, he hadn't even been able to write. Now that he was able to put pen to paper, it meant that he had a flash of inspiration earlier. His method was indeed correct. The Raging Thunder talisman from the Lei Zhang family wasn't a powerful offensive skill, but a supportive skill. It was like the heavenly energy saint arm, but there were some differences. Below, many saint spirits looked at Zi Chen in confusion. They didn't understand what he was doing. Zi Chen's Saint Talisman Master level was already on par with them. This was already impressive. However, he was still a 4-star saint. Under such circumstances, even if he could write a shocking talisman, it would only be a grade 4 saint. Under such circumstances, how could he expect a grade 4 Saint talisman to turn the tables? That was impossible. The weakest among them was a 5-star Saint Spirit. An ordinary grade 4 Saint talisman wouldn't be able to do anything to them. Lei Lan, who was on the battlefield, couldn't understand Zi Chen's actions. Only a 7-star Saint Talisman Master, or above, could change one's fate with a Saint Talisman Master. Haha, your leader can't hold on any longer. He's preparing to write a talisman and escape. Is this a teleportation talisman? Just as everyone noticed Zi Chen's actions, mocking laughter could be heard from the crowd. Obviously, this statement had received a great deal of approval. Get ready. Zi Chen is preparing to use a teleportation talisman to escape. Get ready to capture him. At the outermost perimeter, the group of leaders had already made their next move. Haha! Zi Chen can't hold on any longer. He's going to escape. Everyone's hearts are scattered. When Hu Huanshan saw the message from his subordinate, he smiled proudly. Zi Chen, I didn't think that you would have such a day. Lei Zhanghongtian also laughed, his face full of pride. Zi Chen was still drawing talismans and retreating. However, the number of strokes he made increased with each stroke. Faced with the mockery from all around, as well as the gradual loss of morale on his side, he did not make any response, because he had to concentrate on drawing talismans. The furious roar of thunder was even harder to comprehend than the ghost spirit. It was definitely extraordinary. Once he was distracted, he would definitely fail. Hold on, everyone. Zi Chen will never abandon us and leave on his own. Although Lei Lan didn't understand Zi Chen's actions, she still shouted loudly, hoping to increase her popularity. If he wasn't planning on abandoning us, why didn't he continue to fight? Why did he draw talismans instead? Someone suddenly questioned. It was a 5-star Holy Spirit from the Holy Thunder Clan. He must be preparing something. Lei Lan said anxiously. Prepare a backup plan? A mere holy talisman? Another voice sounded. He's only a 4-star Holy Spirit. Can a mere holy talisman save us? However, a teleportation array can save his life. Nonsense. Zi Chen is not that kind of person. Lei Lan was furious. Whether it's nonsense or not, everyone knows in their hearts. I say everyone, he wants us to fight to the death here, but he wants to escape. Why should we follow such a person? Someone in the crowd spoke again. This time it was not a 5-star Holy Spirit, but a 6-star Holy Spirit. Their already low morale became even lower because of the few words spoken by the crowd. The original battle also stopped at that moment, because their leader was about to escape. What was the point of continuing to fight? The holy spirits of other forces on the periphery looked at them mockingly. So what if the Holy Thunder Clan was one of the 4 great holy clans? Didn't they lose all their morale after being beaten by us? Everyone, what's the point of our battle? Fighting for a person who's about to escape? A 6-star Holy Spirit walked out and said, This time we've already suffered heavy losses. Are we going to be wiped out? Stop! Let's end this meaningless battle. Turner, shut up. We're from the Holy Thunder Clan. We can only fight to the death. We can't retreat. A 6-star Holy Spirit said angrily, You want us to admit defeat? Absolutely impossible. Lay by, no one is afraid of death. None of us from the Holy Thunder Clan are afraid of death. But our deaths have to be worth it. The 6-star Holy Spirit named Turner said, We have to die with dignity. We have to fight to the death with those immortals, not with these people. More so, we can't die for Zi Chen, because he's planning to abandon us and escape. He's a coward. At that moment, everyone's attention was on the internal conflict of the Holy Thunder Clan. On the other hand, not many people were paying attention to Zi Chen, because if he wanted to escape, no one could stop him. Moreover, his true opponent was also in the periphery, not here. Many people even hoped that Zi Chen would leave as soon as possible. Everyone had a mocking look on their faces. Through this battle, the legend of the Holy Thunder Clan had undoubtedly been shattered. Regardless of whether it's worth it or not, I'll never surrender. Because I'm from the Holy Thunder Clan. We have integrity. We can only fight to the death. We'll never retreat. The 6-star Holy Spirit, named Lei said indifferently, "Everyone, this is the last battle. Who's going to follow me?" "Me. Me too." Regardless of whether we should fight this battle or not, since we've already fought, we'll never retreat. We were born as members of the Holy Thunder Clan. Even if we die, we'll still be the souls of the Holy Thunder Clan. There were quite a few Holy Spirits who agreed. They then walked forward, their expressions resolute, especially Lei, who had been fighting a bloody battle earlier and had consumed a lot of energy. But now he took the initiative to walk forward. This was considered to be a generous death. It was just that when he walked forward, he had an illusion that his steps were much lighter. Could it be because I'm a generous death? Even my condition seems to be better. Lei took a deep breath. Since my potential has been stimulated before I die, then I'll fight to the death. But this time, when his voice fell, no one agreed. Instead, there were many exclamations. He also turned around when he heard the exclamations, and then saw that everyone was looking up at the sky. There was doubt in Lei's eyes, and he also looked up. He saw that there were countless light spots floating in the sky. These light spots seemed to be formed by countless thunderbolts, and they were coming down. Lei realized that these light spots were thunderbolts. These drifting thunderbolts, when falling, actively changed their direction and then entered the bodies of some people. It was unknown whether it was a coincidence or not, but these people were all members of the Holy Thunder Clan. In the sky, Zichen exhaled heavily. A holy talisman floated in front of him. At this moment, the holy talisman was pouring pure holy thunder power, like a thunderstorm. The talisman was formed. Chapter 3564. The rain of lightning entered their bodies and healed some of their injuries, as well as some of their energy consumption. Only then did Lei realize that it wasn't him who had activated his potential, but the rain of lightning. At the end of the rain of light was a holy talisman. Looking at the holy talisman that was constantly spewing out rain of light, Lei said excitedly, "I knew it. No one in the Holy Thunder Clan is afraid of death." He was very excited because it proved that his choice was right. Cheers sounded. Those who were willing to die with Lei had also made the right choice. There were also some who looked ashamed. For a moment, he also thought that the leader was going to run away. As for those who were cheering, they were dumbfounded. They didn't expect it to turn out like this. I said before, no one is really afraid of death. But what's the point of our battle? The 6-star Turner said, "Are we still counting on this 4-star holy talisman to save us?" At this moment, Zichen's voice sounded. A holy talisman, indeed, can't save everyone. Turner laughed and was about to say something. But we are fighting to nurture our Holy Thunder Clan. Even without this holy talisman, we still have the meaning of fighting. Zichen said in a deep voice, "Because we are from the Holy Thunder Clan, we are one of the 4 holy clans. Our ancestors used countless battles of blood and fire to tell the world that our Holy Thunder Clan is one of the strongest clans in the Holy Spirit realm. On the battlefield with the enemy, we will only fight to the death, not be scared away." Good. Cheers could be heard from the crowd. The previously low morale of the crowd rose once again. Turner looked at Zichen and said, "This is a meaningless battle. You are sending everyone to their deaths. We have more important things to do, and not die here." Zichen smiled faintly and said, "Maybe, but I will stay here today. Even if I die in battle, I am willing to. If you are willing to leave, then go and do your big thing. Fight to the death. We are the great Holy Thunder Clan. Why would we be afraid of a group of small fries?" The morale of the crowd was high, and they kept shouting. Obviously, there were many people who were not afraid of death. Zichen glanced at Turner and sneered. Then his eyes swept across the crowd. Besides, who said we would die here? In front of him, another blank holy rune appeared. Zichen held unfathomable and began to draw runes. His movements were extremely fast, and every single saint talisman was completed in one go. Once these holy runes were formed, they would automatically release a rain of lightning, which would fall down and converge into the bodies of the Holy Thunder Clan Holy Spirits. 1, 2, 3, 5. More and more of them appeared. As the number of Holy Thunder talismans increased, the space around Zichen became extremely chaotic. Vaguely, there seemed to be a terrifying aura brewing. Not good. Stop him. Someone saw that the situation was not good and shouted loudly. Lei Bai shouted, "Clansmen who are not afraid of death, block them." As countless light spots entered their bodies, everyone's injuries and exhaustion recovered a lot. Those who had lost the ability to fight previously regained their combat strength. Coupled with the high morale, the powerhouses of the Holy Thunder Clan erupted in an instant and displayed unparalleled strength. Zichen was still drawing runes, and his speed was getting faster and faster. These holy runes that appeared flew into the distorted space on their own. After the 10th holy rune was completed, Zichen quickly retreated. The space where he was originally standing was crazily distorted. The 10 holy runes began to surge, and then thunderclouds appeared. Boom! Thunder rumbled and was deafening. The 10 holy runes disappeared, and thunderclouds covered the sky. This is the roar of Thunder's fury. A smile appeared on Zichen's face, and he continued to draw the 11th holy rune. In the thunderclouds, lightning surged and the world darkened. Then a loud thunder sounded, and a bolt of lightning broke through the thunderclouds, illuminating the dark world. The lightning seemed to be real, and it shattered in the sky, turning into more lightning rain. Boom! 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 Thunder rumbled, and lightning constantly broke through the clouds, like thunder dragons descending from the sky and disintegrating from the world. It left behind countless thunderbolts that filled the area, providing strength to all the members of the Holy Thunder Clan. For the Holy Spirits of the Holy Thunder Clan, these thunderbolts were comparable to high-quality elixirs. But for those enemies, the thunderbolts that filled the area were countless tiny attacks, which were very troublesome. Zichen was still drawing runes, and the talisman paper was automatically drawn into the thunderclouds. As the holy runes overlapped, the thunderclouds began to expand, and the area it filled became larger and larger. All the sacred spirits of the Sacred Thunder Tribe were cheering excitedly. This was because the thunderclouds contained countless vitality. Under such circumstances, they all had a feeling that they would never die. Their injuries were recovering quickly. Their exhaustion was also recovering quickly. Their battle prowess was naturally increasing as well. Hearing these cheers, a smile appeared on the pale Zichen's face. Several thunder dragons broke through the clouds, let out dragon roars, and then disintegrated. Under such circumstances, it was as if there were thunderbolts roaring angrily. At this critical moment, the furious roar of thunder saved everyone. And this furious roar of thunder came from the Leizheng family. At this moment, in addition to thanking the Leizheng family, Zichen also wanted to thank those guys who took advantage of the chaos to cause trouble. Those people succeeded in buying time for him, reducing the number of casualties. Of course, Zichen would only thank them in his heart and would not act on it. If he guessed correctly, those people should be Hu Huanshan's people. They were also the ones who sent Hu Huanshan the information. And compared to the other holy spirits who were fighting a bloody battle, they obviously did not contribute much. Thunder rumbled. With the assistance of the thunderbolts, the holy spirits of the Holy Thunder Clan fought more and more bravely. On the other hand, it was the enemy that was greatly suppressed in this area. The situation of the battle was gradually changing. However, This required Zichen to keep drawing talismans to keep the furious roar of thunder in place. After all, the number of enemies far exceeded that of Zichen's side. Zichen's consumption was getting greater and greater, but he did not care at all. Although the Holy Thunder Clan had lost him, their strongest combat power, the furious roar of thunder increased everyone's combat power, vitality, and recovery by level. Everyone hold on. The final victory is still ours, because Zichen can't hold on any longer. Cheers came from the crowd. Zichen said with a smile, "I can't hold on any longer, but can you guarantee that you can hold on?" "Of course we can hold on, because we have more people. When you can't draw talismans anymore, it will be the time of your death." A cold voice came from below. Zichen said with a smile, "Is that so? In terms of numbers, can you beat the Holy Thunder Clan?" Boom! A huge tremor came from the horizon, and terrifying thunderbolts surged. Then, countless bolts of lightning appeared in all directions. It was like an even bigger encirclement encircling everyone. A red figure, like a red thunderbolt, rushed to the front. At the same time, a cold voice sounded, "Leave no one alive." Chapter 3565. They're finally here. Seeing that beautiful red figure, a smile appeared on Zichen's face. Even though his face was already as pale as paper and his consumption had reached its limit, the furious roar of thunder could only temporarily relieve the situation because the number of enemies was indeed large. However, Zichen had always believed that after such a big thing had happened, the army of the Holy Thunder Clan stationed in the camp would come to his rescue in time. They had indeed come, although it was a little later than Zichen had imagined. But it was still in time. The huge encirclement began to close in. Lei Wushuang was the first to rush over. Zichen noticed that the immortal armor on her body was covered in blood, as if she had been through a great battle earlier. Wherever she passed, the holy spirits from other clans were sent flying one after another. The original encirclement was instantly torn open by her. Seeing this scene, the holy spirits of other forces were terrified. Knowing that they had lost, they began to retreat one after another. However, they were surrounded by the people of the Holy Thunder Clan, and they had no way to retreat. So they began to beg for mercy. However, Lei Wushuang only said one sentence, "Kill without mercy." Obviously, this violent female corps did not intend to let anyone here go. This could be considered as killing one to warn 100, and killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Turner and those who had been heckling earlier were also fighting very hard at this moment. However, compared to the other excited people, there was obvious worry in their eyes. After the encirclement closed, this battle was nearing its end. Zichen, who had consumed a lot of energy, no longer continued to draw talismans. Instead, he stood in the air and watched the battle in the field. All the people of the Holy Thunder Clan who came in felt the impact of the thunder rain. All of them were very surprised, and there was curiosity in their eyes, as if they were looking at something new. Lei Wushuang flew to Zichen's side and patted him on the shoulder. Like a big sister, she said, "Well done." Zichen smiled faintly and asked, "Did you encounter trouble when you came?" "It's not trouble. I just wiped out all those guys outside while I was at it. How dare they have designs on our Holy Thunder Clan? They're simply courting death." Lei Wushuang proudly said, "Next, let their forces cry. Let the other forces see that this is the consequence of finding trouble with the Holy Thunder Clan." At this moment, the people below were cleaning up the battlefield. Lei Wushuang waved his hand and said, "Everyone back off. Leave the battlefield to them." Even if a dead divine spirit did not have a spirit ring, its body could still crystallize. That was a high-quality Saint Crystal, which was a resource in and of itself. Lei Wushuang's action was naturally giving away all the spoils of war. Zichen didn't refuse because this was what his subordinates deserved. But before that, he needed to solve some internal problems. His figure descended from the sky as he said, Tenna, take your men and leave at once. I won't hold you responsible for what happened before. I will give you all the contribution points that you deserve. Turner's heart trembled. He looked back at Zichen and said firmly, "Why are you driving me away?" Zichen looked at him and said, "You don't know the reason?" Tenna coldly snorted and said, "We contributed and killed all the enemies. Now that you have no use for us, you want to drive us away?" Zichen smiled faintly and said, "You don't have to deliberately say the word we. It's just that those guys who disturb the morale of the army are not all of you." "Disturb the morale of the army? I'm telling the truth," Tenna said coldly. "Let's just say that you're telling the truth." The smile on Zichen's face suddenly disappeared. The next moment, his body disappeared into thin air. When he reappeared, he was already beside Tenna. With a loud bang, Tenna's body flew backward. As he flew backward, the spirit ring was in Zichen's hand. "Zichen, what are you doing?" Tenna stared coldly at Zichen. "As the leader, you failed to drive people away, and now you want to snatch my things? Do you want to disappoint everyone?" Zichen smiled and said, "What do you have that's worth me snatching? I'm just very confused. Why did Hu Huanshan come in time every time we found a place to plant the flag?" Hearing Zichen's words, the expressions of the Holy Spirits changed, because what happened before seemed to be too much of a coincidence. Just as Lei Lan discovered something, Hu Huanshan's flag was inserted into the ground behind them. At first, they felt that there was something wrong. Now, they seemed to have guessed the reason. In an instant, the way everyone looked at Turner had changed. "Zichen, you're just blaming me for not being on your side before. Why do you have to come up with such an excuse now? You have no right to take my spirit ring. Give it back to me now." Tenna moved forward, ready to take the spirit ring again. At this moment, a strong oppressive aura descended from the sky and fell on Tenna. It was Lei Wuxuang who made a move. Tenna's expression changed drastically. He did not expect Lei Wuxuang to be so powerful. Lei Wuxuang landed and said coldly, "Investigate this matter. Whoever is at fault will be punished." Chen's body glowed as he forcibly erased Tenna's spirit ring. Then he took out a communication bead and said indifferently, "You guys didn't use your full strength in the battle before, so I won't hold it against you. However, you colluded with Hu Huanshan, which caused everyone to be unable to gain anything after so long. This is unforgivable." There were traces in the communication bead that could be checked with spiritual thoughts. Zichen handed the communication bead to Lei Wuxuang. The faces of the people from before turned pale in an instant, and there was panic in their eyes. The Holy Spirits, who had been sympathetic to them, now had extremely cold looks in their eyes. Thinking back to the previous battle, they seemed to have been avoiding the battle, and the killing was not fierce. Lei Wuxuang's spiritual thoughts swept over them, and there was anger in her eyes. She looked back at Zichen and said, "You have the final say on how to deal with them." Zichen's gaze swept over them and said coldly, "Actually, even if you colluded with Hu Huanshan, it's nothing. It's fine if you didn't use your full strength in the battle. However, you shouldn't have watched your comrades die in front of you without doing anything. People like you who ignore the lives of your comrades don't deserve to stay in my team. And these 3 heavenly energy saint arms, you don't deserve to have them." Zichen had 3 more saint talismans in his hand. He had given them to Tenna to use in the battle, but Tenna did not use any of them. Obviously, he did not use his full strength. "Nonsense. We have been fighting with our lives on the line," Tenna said loudly, unwilling to be expelled just like that. "Now, I announce that I will take away all of your contributions and expel you from my team," Zichen said coldly. "Zichen, you are so cruel." Tenna's face changed, and so did the people who followed him. Hu Huanshan had not gained anything until now, but they had followed Zichen. In addition to the first merit, they had also conquered a territory, and their contributions were not small. But now they were being expelled just like that. You should thank me for not executing you on the spot for disturbing the morale of the troops. Zichen's eyes were cold, and he said coldly, "Now go back to your master." After saying that, he waved his sleeves, and a strong hurricane appeared, sweeping everyone's bodies away. "If you dare to appear in my territory again, I will kill you without mercy." At the same time, Zichen's warning was heard, full of killing intent. Chapter 3566. A group of holy spirits began to clean up the battlefield. Many of their companions had died in the battle this time. Those who survived were very fortunate, but they were also angry. He was angry at Turner, and also angry at Hu Huanshan. These holy spirits all had families behind them, big or small. Once they bore a grudge against them, the Hu family would not have an easy time after this trial ended. Calculate the identities of the dead and give them 3 times the contribution reward. Zichen's voice sounded again. Those who were alive still had the possibility of getting contribution points, but those who were dead had lost this qualification. I will also report this matter to the Holy Thunder Clan. When this matter is over, whether it is those people from before or Hu Huanshan, the Holy Thunder Clan will give you an explanation, Lei Wushuang said. This was also what Lei Wuxing had told him before he came. "How is the camp?" Zichen asked. Lei Wuxing said, "It has been defended. When the teleportation formation is built and the bloodline ancestor is there, Lei Wuxing can go out and fight." Bloodline ancestor? Zichen heard this and said with a strange expression, "Can he defend it?" Lei Wushuang rolled his eyes and said, "He is one of the patriarchs of the Holy Thunder Clan. How can he not defend that place? Don't underestimate the bloodline ancestor. Just the fact that he is the only holy venerate in this place is enough to see that he is extraordinary." Zichen nodded, but he still had his own opinion in his heart. On the outer planet, the bloodline ancestor sneezed a few times and then cursed, "Which little bastard is talking bad about me behind my back? He must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts." According to the original rules, they still had to wait for a day, so Zichen began to recover. Lei Wushuang did not leave immediately, but led people to patrol the surroundings. When Hu Huanshan learned that the reinforcements had arrived and all the enemies had been wiped out, his vision turned black and he almost fainted. This time, the plan that he had thought to be perfect had fallen short of success, just like that. In this way, he who had wasted the 6 Dao flag gained nothing this time. Behind him, the morale of the holy spirits who were following him had dropped significantly. These damned reinforcements. How did they get here so quickly? Hu Huanshan cursed. And after seeing the dejected Turner's group, his mood was even worse. This time no one gained anything. Turner and the others felt very wronged and very angry because they should have been able to get contribution points this time. And there were many of them. Now he had nothing. Looking at the low morale, Hu Huanshan comforted them. "Don't worry, everyone. We still have 4 flags. We just need to be careful. As long as we can snatch a piece of land from Zichen, we'll make a huge profit." Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. Clearly, Hu Huanshan meant that there were still people in Zichen's team. In another direction, Lei Zhanghongtian, who had learned of the arrival of reinforcements, unwillingly retreated. "Zichen, this isn't over yet." After Zichen recovered, many people from the Holy Thunder Clan came. They were all professionals in exploration. Obviously, they would go all out to mine this place. This was because the outer planets had been successfully occupied and belonged exclusively to the Holy Thunder Clan. But this place was different, so they would mainly mine resources here. Of course, during this period, the Holy Thunder Clan would still send people over continuously. This area was currently the most important. "What holy talisman did you use just now?" Seeing that Zichen had fully recovered, Lei Wushuang asked the question in her heart. Based on Zi-Chen's small number of people, the thundercloud played a huge role in stopping the encirclement of many forces. Thunder Fury, a 4-star holy talisman technique. Zi-Chen told Lei Wushuang how he obtained the Thunder Fury, which made her slightly stunned. In the end, Lei Wushuang sighed. I didn't believe in karma at first, but now I do. With her means, of course. She knew that Lei Zhenghongtian was behind Hu Huanshan, and this time it was the Lei Zheng family's Thunder Fury that came to the rescue. Is there a limit to the use of your holy talisman? Lei Wushuang asked. There is no limit. 1 can be used, but the effect is not great. 10 can be used in a group and have a supportive effect. It's like a territory, Zi-Chen said after thinking for a while. Do you still want to contribute? Lei Wushuang looked at Zi-Chen. A contribution that belongs to you alone. Zi-Chen looked at Lei Wushuang with a strange expression. Why, is there a problem? Lei Wushuang's expression was a little unnatural. I thought you wouldn't care about this kind of thing, Zi-Chen said honestly. Lei Wushuang was immediately angry. She stood up and said, What, in Zi-Chen's eyes, am I someone who only knows how to fight and doesn't know how to use my brain? I didn't say that. Zi-Chen spread his hands. How dare you look down on me? Zi-Chen, do you want me to play a few moves with you? Lei Wushuang clenched her fists and began to circulate her aura. Zi-Chen quickly begged for mercy. I admit defeat. Miss Wushuang, you have unparalleled combat power. How would I dare to fight with you? Bah, you're such a glib talker. Lei Wushuang retracted her fists and blushed. After a while, she said, You really don't want this contribution? Why wouldn't I want a contribution that comes to me for free? Zi-Chen said, I just don't know. How do you plan to give it to me? This time, we have the right to distribute extra contributions. So, I plan to give you an extra contribution in exchange for the Thunder Fury. What's an extra contribution? Zi-Chen asked. It's a special contribution. Lei Wushuang explained. For example, you and Lei Lan will get a special contribution after conquering this area. However, there are big and small differences in special contributions as well. It depends on how much you contribute to the Holy Thunder Clan. For example, if your holy talisman helps multiple teams to defend successfully, then your contribution will stack up and the special contribution that belongs to you will naturally get the biggest share. Don't underestimate these special contributions. They will definitely tempt many holy spirits. Since it was so simple and clear, Zi-Chen naturally understood. His holy talisman was no longer used to exchange for a fixed amount of contribution. Instead, it depended on how useful it was. If it was very useful, the contribution would be huge. Otherwise, the contribution would be very small. In this way, he would have a limitless future. Zi-Chen thought for a while and said, How about this? You provide me with holy talisman papers, and I will not only give you the Thunder Fury for free, but I will also give you the Heavenly Saint Arm. It can be very useful for those with strong physical bodies. Here are 1,000 4th-grade holy talisman papers. You can use them first. I will give you more if it's not enough. Lei Wushuang smiled. Obviously, she had been prepared. Zi-Chen was slightly taken aback. He felt like he had been tricked. However, this time his team had suffered great losses, and many of them were seriously injured. Under such circumstances, Zi-Chen could not advance in time. Therefore, he began to draw talismans to accumulate contribution points for himself. Chapter 3567. The surrounding immortal beasts surrounded Zi-Chen, and there were more than 10 of them. Their auras were strong, and each of them was equivalent to a 5-star sacred spirit. Some were even stronger. Zi-Chen stood in the air with a defense talisman array above his head. He stood in the middle of the talisman array and drew talismans. He turned a blind eye to the immortal beasts attacking him. The defense talisman array blocked the auras of the immortal beasts and prevented them from affecting his talisman drawing. The immortal beasts were getting closer and closer to Zichen. Just as they were about to hit the defense talisman array, dozens of black sacred talismans suddenly flew out from Zichen's surroundings. These sacred talismans were in groups of 3. They left the range of the talisman array and flew in all directions. They were all ghost sacred talismans. These ghost sacred talismans instantly shattered, and palm-sized ghost spirits appeared. They formed a ghost sacred talisman array and entered the bodies of the surrounding immortal beasts. In the next moment, the immortal beasts struggled. Their eyes were filled with fear as they rolled in the sky. Their bodies disintegrated, and immortal stones the size of a human head appeared around Zichen. At a glance, there were more than 100 immortal stones. When the immortal beasts died, their soul lights flew back and restored the soul power that Zichen had used to draw talismans. He, who was originally writing Thunder of Fury, immediately changed to ghost sacred talismans. After he finished writing 81 ghost sacred talismans, Zichen continued to write Thunder of Fury. Under such circumstances, Zichen could ensure that his soul power was always in a strong state, so he could continue to write sacred talismans. At this time, this area was still equivalent to the periphery. There were not many teams like Zichen who continued to stay in the periphery. A few days later, Zichen had completed 1,000 roars of thunder, and the number of celestial stones floating around him had already reached several hundred. You're not taking so many high-quality immortal stones. Aren't you worried that someone will come and rob you? A faint laugh sounded. It was Lei Wuxing, who had just left the camp. Zichen put away the sacred talisman brush and said, "You came at the right time. These 1,000 Thunder of Fury should be able to help many of our people." 1,000 saint talismans flew toward Lei Wuxing. At the same time, Zichen waved his sleeve and the surrounding high-quality celestial stones disappeared one after another. They were all put away by Zichen. "Thank you very much." Lei Wuxing clasped his fists in thanks, then looked at Zichen, who was already showing signs of exhaustion, and said, "As for the heavenly energy saint arms, I have brought some from the tribe, and from the looks of it, it should be enough for a while." Zichen nodded. He had continuously written 1,000 furious thunder roars and many ghost spirit saint talismans. He had consumed a lot of energy and was mentally exhausted. He needed to rest. "I went to see your people earlier. They've mostly recovered. Speaking of which, the competition in the depths is very fierce. Do you want me to send you some more people?" In the last battle, Zichen's side had suffered heavy losses, losing nearly half of their men. However, it was proven that the sacrifice was worth it. There was a huge mineral vein in the depths of the region, and it could be said to be rich in resources. "No need. We'll be more careful in the future. If we really can't do it, we'll ask others for help." Zichen rejected Lei Wuxing's suggestion. This was because with the outbreak of the battle, all sides needed experts. If Zichen's side were to be sent reinforcements, the other teams would not feel comfortable knowing about it. Because losing people was happening all the time, and as long as Lei Wuxing's army existed, it would be a huge deterrent to the other forces. It was worth mentioning that the forces that had targeted Zichen a few days ago were all killed by Lei Wuxing, causing them to suffer heavy losses. Therefore, in the following large-scale battles, all the forces gradually restrained themselves. Often, the end of the battle would be a negotiation. Such a battle where one side was completely wiped out never happened again. Zichen returned to his original base. The mining work had already begun, and those who had been seriously injured had all recovered. In this place, the resources that they received were naturally the best. With the appearance of Zichen, the eyes of the Holy Spirits became fervent. Obviously, Zichen's arrival meant that the team was going to continue to go deeper. This time they had received many contributions and tasted the sweetness of it. Naturally, they were eager to go deeper. Speaking of which, Such an opportunity had probably not come by in hundreds of thousands of years. Zichen, who looked exhausted, announced that they would rest for a day and set off the next day. There were cheers all around. That night, Zichen did not cultivate. He just slept. This was rare. The next day, after he had fully recovered, Zichen led the team and went straight into the depths. This time, the number of people was only half of the previous time. As for the base that they had conquered, it was all handed over to the people who came later. They would take care of it from now on. Even if they lost it, it would have nothing to do with Zichen and the others. The team began to set off. Zichen and Lei Lan walked to the front, and the others followed behind. In another area, Huanshan, who had been waiting for a long time, finally received the news that Zichen was going forward. Zichen, this time I don't need too much. Just a piece of land is enough. So, you'd better perform well. They had only obtained a single piece of land. Although their gains were not that great, the advantage was that they had gained something. Naturally, there were fewer complaints in their hearts. Of course, if they could obtain a valuable piece of land, it would be an unexpected surprise for him. While they were moving forward, Lei Lan said, "We are the last team to go deeper. Almost all the areas here have been turned over. It won't be easy to find a suitable place for resources." Zichen said, "In that case, let's speed up. Also, there are only 6 flags left. We can't waste them. This time, we have to make sure that everyone's contributions are maximized." Obviously, Zichen did not intend to release the flags unless they encountered some special places. The two of them did not lower their voices, so the group of saint spirits behind them could clearly hear their conversation. This caused many of them to have a look of joy in their eyes. In this way, perhaps their team would be the one with the biggest gains this time. In the next few days, the team clearly moved forward. During this time, they occasionally saw flags planted by some forces, but they did not go over to fight. During this time, Lei Lan carefully sensed and found that there were resources of different sizes in some of the occupied areas. It seemed that there were many professionals among the major forces that came this time. Relatively speaking, there were very few people like Huanshan who did not gain anything. Chapter 3568. Lei Lan pointed at the land under her feet and said, "There should be opportunities here." Zichen was puzzled when he heard that. "Are you not sure?" "I can't be sure. I feel that there's a mysterious energy here that's affecting my senses." Lei Lan looked around and said, "Send some people to guard this place. I'll go to other places to take a look. Maybe we'll find something else." Zichen arranged for 5 people to stay here. 2 of them were 6 stars, while the remaining 3 were 5 stars. Then the team continued to move forward and stopped about 3,000 miles away. "How is it?" Zichen looked at Lei Lan. "This time, my senses are clearer. There's definitely an opportunity underground." Lei Lan said, "However, I keep feeling that these 2 places have some kind of connection with each other. Or rather, in this area, they're both different. Send a few more people to guard this place. Lei Bai, you stay here too. This is a command flag. When you hear my order, you'll plant the flag here." Zichen trusted Lei Bai very much. He was a 6-star, and he was the first leader to say that he wanted to die in battle. Lei Bai took the command flag, turned around and said, "Who's willing to stay?" Immediately, a few people took the initiative to step forward and stood behind Lei Bai. "Let's go. We'll continue to the next place." Next, the team approached in another direction. That was the 3rd place that Lei Lan saw. After stopping here, Lei Lan sensed for a full 15 minutes. When she opened her eyes, there was excitement in them. She said, "It's here. When these 3 places are connected, it's a land of great opportunities." A light flashed in Zichen's hand, and the command flag appeared. At the same time, he ordered, "Send a message to Lei Bai. Tell him to put down the command flag." However, as soon as he finished speaking, a flash of lightning appeared in the team. "I'm sorry, Master Zichen. You're still a little too late. He saw a 6-star saint spirit with a faint smile on his face. Beneath his feet, a flag was expanding. Chester, what are you doing? A 6-star holy spirit shouted angrily. In an instant, the temperature in the surroundings plummeted. Everyone's eyes were filled with killing intent. Everyone, please don't be angry. You should know that I'm also a member of the Holy Thunder Clan. Stet smiled proudly and took out his communication bead. After reading the contents, the pride on his face became even stronger. Yes, the two of them have also succeeded. Looks like our luck is pretty good this time. Zichen stared at him coldly. Stefan laughed. I know what you're going to say. Depriving us of all our contributions? After we have this place, we don't need it anymore. At this moment, a ray of light flew over from afar. The leader was Levi. Levi's face was very ugly, but more than that, it was filled with guilt. My lord, the flag in his hand was the same one that Zichen had given him before. Obviously, someone else had beaten him to it. Zichen took the command flag, looked at the guilty lay-by, and comforted him. It's okay, this world is so big, there are always other opportunities. Moreover, these guys have used 3 command flags this time. There's only one left. They won't be able to make any big waves. If you're worried about the number of command flags I have, then I'm sorry to tell you that I still have many of these command flags. A faint laugh came from the horizon. Hu Huanshan led his people and flew over. This time his face was full of pride. The people behind him also had smiles on their faces, especially the people who were chased away by Zichen. Their faces were full of pride. Using such despicable means, even if you get the opportunity, it's not your true ability. Lei Lan said angrily. Hu Huanshan smiled coldly and said, Little girl, you're still too inexperienced. So what if you don't have the ability? Isn't it fine if you have the luck? Then he looked at Zichen and said, Oh, I almost forgot. In this situation, I have to defend with all my strength, right? Oh, right, Zichen, why don't you give me a hand and bring people to defend in advance? When it's done, I'll give you some shares. Obviously, this was what Zichen asked someone to say to Hu Huanshan. Now, Hu Huanshan used it on Zichen. In Zichen's team, all the holy spirits stared coldly at Hu Huanshan, their eyes full of anger. Zichen said indifferently, Everyone follow me and leave full speed. After saying that, Zichen turned and left. Haha, I won't see you off. Hu Huanshan's laughter sounded again. This won't happen again. Zichen's cold voice was filled with endless killing intent. The other holy spirits were extremely unwilling, but there was nothing they could do. The Holy Thunder Clan was not allowed to start a war. After they were far away, Lei Lan said telepathically, Is this really okay? There's nothing wrong with it. At least these flies won't come for a while. Just after Zichen's team left, Leijin Hongtian came. Looking at Hu Huanshan, who was very proud, he also laughed. Obviously, Zichen had really suffered a big loss this time. Did he get cheated again? Leijin Hongtian was a little worried. Hu Huanshan said proudly, How is that possible? This time, that guy called Lei Lan thought about it for a long time before he made up his mind. Moreover, Zichen is very cautious and has already checked the surroundings to make sure there are no pursuers. Even if he was on guard, he would never have thought that I would give them the flag in advance. Leijin Hongtian nodded and said with relief, Next, prepare to defend. Don't worry. The big forces have already entered the depths. Those who are still here are nothing to be afraid of. As long as we can block the attacks of those immortal beasts, what happens next is nothing. Hu Huanshan said proudly, and in this case it's impossible for Zichen to borrow the hands of others. The news spread out as expected. Outside this area, there were many holy spirits from some small forces. Obviously, they had other ideas in their hearts. With Leijin Hongtian and other existences who were only one step away from the core, Hu Huanshan was very confident about this defensive battle. Therefore, before the battle began, he went to find the scouts and urged them to quickly come and excavate this area. The immortal beasts were the first to attack. A group of fierce battles broke out. Because there was no furious thunder roar, Hu Huanshan's side suffered a lot of losses. After that, other forces took advantage of the chaos and came, wanting to get a share of the loot. However, they were caught off guard by Lei Hongtian and the others. 1 day later, this area was defended. Hu Huanshan was very proud. Next, he just had to wait for the scouts to arrive. As for Lei Hongtian, he continued to move forward. He also had a flag with him. Obviously, he planned to use the same method to get some benefits from Zichen. 5 days later, the scouts that Hu Huanshan was waiting for finally arrived. It took 3 whole days for them to explore, which made Hu Huanshan even more excited. The more resources a place had, the more cautious it was. 3 days later, the scouts informed him that there were no opportunities in this area. Chapter 3569. Above an area with a radius of 100 miles, Zichen used the 4th flag and guarded the area for an entire day. Because the area was too small, there were almost no major battles. Everything was over, leaving behind 2 5-star holy spirits to wait for the Holy Thunder clan to take over the area. Zichen led the large group and continued to go deeper. Another 2 days later, Lei Lan discovered another area. This time the scale was not small. Therefore, he did not hesitate to put down the flags and occupied 2 of them this time. Another day of guarding. Although Zichen had fewer people on his side, there were many powerhouses. With the addition of the furious thunder roar, this battle was daunting but not dangerous. Of course, the original number of people was reduced by nearly 1/10. After sending another 2 people to wait in place, Lei Lan continued to move forward and increased his speed. He did not know when Hu Huanshan would catch up again, so before that, Zichen had to use up all the flags on him. Of course, he did not use them at will. Instead, he relied on Lei Lan's perception. The place where the flags were placed was naturally a place with opportunities, or even a great opportunity. Therefore, before Hu Huanshan caught up, Zichen used 2 more flags. At this point, there was only 1 flag left among the 10 flags. The number of guards following Zichen decreased, but they did not feel depressed. Instead, everyone was very excited. This was because the harvest this time was really great. As for those who died in the battle, their contributions were also doubled, so they could die without regrets. This time, they had profited greatly by following Zichen. Zichen, I want you dead. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded. It was Hu Huanshan. Obviously, after chasing for many days, he finally caught up with Zichen. His eyes looked like they were about to spit fire. Zichen glanced at him and said indifferently, "Why? Are you here to help me defend the area? You're very welcome. After this is done, I'll give you a share." Hu Huanshan came closer and said angrily, "You're courting death. Everyone attack. Kill everyone here." At this moment, Hu Huanshan seemed to have gone mad as he rushed towards Zichen. A tyrannical aura surged from his body. Zichen's eyes gradually turned cold as he used his own strength. Boom! A powerful aura erupted. At the moment when the 2 sides collided, Hu Huanshan was directly sent flying. With the immortal king armor, Zichen was almost invincible. As for the holy spirits, who had followed closely behind, they could only watch from afar. Although their expressions were extremely ugly, they didn't have the courage to make a move. In such a place, if there was a private fight between members of the Holy Thunder clan, they would definitely be punished and bring trouble to the clan. Hu Huanshan forced himself to control his emotions, but the way he looked into Zichen's eyes still looked like they were about to spit fire. "Good, very good. Zichen, this time I will make you pay the price." Hu Huanshan looked at the area Zichen was guarding and turned to leave. At this moment, his heart was filled with monstrous hatred. This was because he had already used 9 flags to get here, but to no avail. Not only that, but in the previous defensive battle his losses were not small. However, he didn't expect that the area he had conquered would have no resources at all, making him a laughingstock. Looking at Hu Huanshan leaving, Zichen's lips curled into a sneer. Since there was a traitor in the team, Zichan would naturally be on guard. He had dug a hole for Hu Huanshan to jump into again. After leaving, Hu Huanshan said coldly, "Go and spread the news. Say that there is a great opportunity underground in Zichen's area." Obviously, he was very unwilling to give up and decided to set up Zichen again. The defensive battle began. Zichen directly threw out more than 10 holy talismans, a furious thunder roar. Thunder rumbled in the sky, and a rain of lightning fell continuously. The falling rain of lightning protected the battle area below. In this area, the holy spirits of the Holy Thunder clan fought more and more bravely. Compared to the enemy, they were suppressed by the power of thunder. In the previous few battles, Zichen was always the first to take out the holy talismans of furious thunder roar. This greatly reduced the team's losses. However, as they went deeper, the battle became more and more tragic. Zichen's team was constantly losing members. At this point, there were only a few 5-star holy spirits left in the team. There were still dozens of 6-star holy spirits. Lei Lan held a stack of holy talismans in her hand and stayed in the center. Once the thunder clouds above showed signs of weakening, she would throw out another talisman to replenish them. As for Zichen, he held the immortal spear in his hand and charged forward. Blood splattered everywhere as immortal beasts died, one after another. The group of holy spirits fought fiercely and were not afraid of death. The first battle ended quickly. Immortal stones of different sizes were scattered all around. Everyone quickly cleaned up the battlefield and prepared for the second battle. Experts from other forces appeared around them. This time, there were quite a number of them. Seeing those people, Zichen's expression became colder and colder. He said indifferently, "Everyone, this should be the last battle. Defend this place, and everyone's mission will be completed." Many holy spirits nodded, their eyes filled with a final fanaticism. As long as they defended this place, even if they died in this battle, they would only lose a physical body. With the contribution they obtained from this place, it would not be difficult to refine a new physical body. Thunder clouds rolled above their heads. Thunder dragons constantly descended from the sky and then disintegrated into countless pure thunderbolts. Wisps of thunder power entered Zichen's body and recovered his energy. He waved his hand and motioned for everyone to retreat. Obviously, the battle would be held in the thunder clouds. The enemy charged over. There were more than a dozen teams. Die! Zichen held the battle spear in his hand and rode forward on his immortal beast. The battle spear in his hand drew a ray of light and charged forward. The 6-star Holy Spirit, targeted by Zichen, was naturally aware of the opponent's strength. He hurriedly put up a defense. With a loud bang, the opponent's defense was instantly broken. The long spear pressed forward and penetrated the 6-star Holy Spirit's body. A powerful force shook the area. The 6-star Holy Spirit's body was sent flying. Zichen rode on his immortal beast and charged forward. This was a fierce battle. Zichen was bathed in blood. No one knew how many 6-star Holy Spirits were killed by him. However, his personal strength was ultimately limited. His subordinates behind him suffered heavy casualties. The number of people in the team was decreasing one by one. Under such circumstances, the only thing they could do was to persevere and kill the last enemy. Because this place was too far away from the camp, there would be no reinforcements coming. Haha, go to hell! A 6-star Holy Spirit from the Holy Thunder clan laughed and beheaded his enemy. However, several weapons pierced his body immediately after. His vitality faded away, but the smile on his face did not diminish. The same scene played out in the next few days. The holy spirits from the Holy Thunder clan who died in the battle almost all died with smiles on their faces. The slaughter was still going on, and it was exceptionally fierce. The number of people kept decreasing. In the end, Zichen was the one who held the fort. Those enemies were scared out of their wits and immediately fled. Chapter 3570. In the sky, the thunderstorm continued to fall, nourishing everyone's injured bodies. Corpses were strewn all over the ground. It was a tragic sight. However, everyone who was still alive had an excited smile on their faces. Evidently, they had once again successfully guarded an area. Hu Huanshan appeared in the distance. Looking at the scene in front of him, anger flashed in his eyes. Those trash! Why didn't they hold on for a while longer? In the sky, the thunderstorm was still falling, and everyone's injuries were quickly recovering. Naturally, the success this time was due to the thunder's fury. This holy talisman technique from the Leizheng family really helped Zichen a lot. Hu Huanshan was very unwilling, but his identity was special now. Naturally, he couldn't find trouble with Zichen. At this time, Leizheng Hongtian appeared behind him and said, "Don't worry about this place. I found a big opportunity in the depths. Once you get it, it can make up for all your losses." Hu Huanshan was shocked when he heard this. Leizheng Hongtian couldn't lie to him. This made him, who had been in despair, see hope again. So he took his people and left. Zichen began to clean up the battlefield and then waited for the Thunder Clan's people to arrive. A day later, a team came here and handed over to Zichen. Then a professional did a preliminary survey and found an opportunity. Zichen left with the team. He only had one flag left, but he didn't plan to use it for the time being, because even if they saw an opportunity, it was impossible for them to defend it. A day later, Zichen looked at the 20 holy spirits and said, "You are free now. You can go wherever you want." The holy spirits said without hesitation, "Wherever Sir goes, we will go." Although Zichen was only a 4-star, they respected Zichen from the bottom of their hearts. Once they left here, the contribution they got this time would be enough to strengthen their family. On the other hand, Zichen had already used his own battle prowess to prove that he was worthy of being the captain. Now that everyone was free, they didn't leave immediately because this was not a sightseeing place, but a dangerous area. If they followed Zichen, even if they encountered danger, they could take care of each other. Moreover, everyone knew that Zichen still had one last flag on him. If they found something special, they could still try to drop the flag. Seeing that none of them had any intention of leaving, Zichen did not force them. Instead, he led them deeper into the forest. Lei Lan was by Zichen's side. Lei Lan's contribution to the great harvest this time could not go unnoticed. Along the way, there were no more battles. Even the number of ferocious beasts gradually decreased. A huge city appeared at the end of Zichen's line of sight. Are we reaching the city soon? Looking at the outline of the city that was gradually becoming clearer, Zichen's heart was filled with anticipation, because the real opportunity was the soul-gathering crystal mine. In addition to the city in the distance becoming clearer, some mountain peaks gradually appeared in the surroundings. The mountain peaks were continuous, as if a divine dragon was lying down, forming a huge mountain range. At this moment, figures flashed in the mountain range from time to time. Powerful auras surged there. There was a battle. Zichen released his spiritual thoughts and was surprised to find that there were immortals here. At this moment, many forces were surrounding and killing those immortals. The immortals were wearing immortal armor. Although the quality was not as good as Zichen's Immortal King armor, it was still much stronger than ordinary armor. Zichen turned around to look at the crowd and found that their gazes had all become fervent. Obviously, everyone wanted to get a set of immortal armor. Zichen did not stop them. Instead, he said, "Be careful." Obviously, this was a tacit agreement. The group cheered and left. Chen turned to look at Lei Lan and asked, "What's wrong?" According to Chen's original intention, it was obvious that he wanted to help everyone. After all, his ghost spirit sacred talisman was extraordinarily powerful. But just now, Lei Lan suddenly sent a voice transmission, and Chen dismissed this idea. Lei Lan looked at the endless mountain range in front of them and said in a deep voice, "I feel that there's something unusual about this place." "Oh," Chen said, "is there another opportunity?" Lei Lan shook her head and said, "I'm not sure, but my perception is greatly affected here. There seems to be a mysterious force that blocks my perception." Hearing this, Chen became spirited. He still had the last command flag. If there was really an opportunity here, he might be able to fight for it. He followed Lei Lan and flew forward. Chen extended his spiritual consciousness and found that there were many holy spirits in the area. These holy spirits came from various forces. It could be said that all the forces that came to the depths had gathered here at this moment. The city was still at the forefront. This mountain range was like a natural moat protecting the city ahead. There were many holy spirits here, but compared to when they first entered this world, the number of holy spirits had decreased by 90%. Chen stood in the air. Lei Lan carefully observed the surroundings, but did not find anything. Right at this moment, a person flew over at high speed. "Brother Chen." The person cupped his fists at Chen from afar. Chen cupped his fists in response and looked at the stranger. "I'm Lei Ba, from the Annihilation Clan." The person introduced himself. Chen's expression changed, and he cupped his fists at Lei Ba again. This time, his expression was more serious. Of course, this was not for Lei Ba, but for the Annihilation Clan. It was a very special clan, similar to the enforcers of the Holy Thunder Clan. Its reputation was second only to the core of the clan, but it was very special and important. The role of this clan was to protect the peace of the Holy Thunder Clan. In the history of the Holy Thunder Clan, the Annihilation Clan had quelled rebellions more than 100 times. At the most serious time, the Annihilation Clan was almost destroyed. When the Annihilation Clan was mentioned, it could be said that everyone in the Holy Thunder Clan admired it. To the entire Holy Thunder Clan, the Annihilation Clan's reputation might not be comparable to the Leijing families. However, among the core disciples, the Annihilation Clan's reputation was much higher than the Leijing families. Speaking of which, Brother Chen, your reputation has been great recently. Lei Ba said with a smile, "Many people are envious of your team and want to replace them." Chen smiled and said, "Don't say that. I'm just a bit lucky. Moreover, after coming here, we suffered heavy losses this time. The team we brought with us has less than 20 people left." Lei Ba said, "Our losses are not small either. That's why I came to find you this time. In fact, I hope to join forces with your team." Chapter 3571. Previously, Lei Lan had such a feeling. Now that Lei Ba said the same thing, Chen was even more curious. "Have you found something?" Chen looked at Lei Ba. Lei Ba shook his head and smiled bitterly. "How is that possible? The opportunities here are very hidden and difficult to find. Once found, it must be something extraordinary. I can't protect it." Chen said, "I'm afraid you found the wrong person. I have less than 20 people. Moreover, I have a conflict with the Leijing family. That Hu Huanshan from the Hu family has been targeting me. If you team up with me, not only will you not get a powerful force, you will also lose many allies. I didn't expect you to be such a straightforward person." Lei Ba laughed and said, "But I'm the same as you. I'm not very likable. I also dislike the Leijing family. Speaking of which, I also know about your situation. It's because of this that I want to team up with you." Chen looked at Lei Ba suspiciously. With his identity as the Chaos Extermination Clan, which family wouldn't want to curry favor with him? Even Lei Jinhongtian would be very polite when he saw Lei Ba. Lei Ba smiled and said, "In this area, there are less than 10 people who know my identity." Zi Chen's expression changed slightly when he heard this. Lei Lan's expression was the same. Lei Ba introduced himself as soon as he arrived. It seemed very casual, but he didn't expect it to be a secret. Lei Ba obviously didn't explain much to Zi Chen. Instead, he asked, "So do you agree? If you don't mind my weak force, I don't mind forming an alliance. Of course, it's only a temporary alliance. My people won't follow you," Zi Chen said. Lei Ba smiled and said, "You don't have to worry about that. My people will follow you." "Follow me?" Zi Chen was stunned. He didn't understand. In this world, who doesn't know that you have a treasure hunting prodigy by your side? Under such circumstances, the wisest choice is naturally to follow you. But you can rest assured, after the matter is done, according to our contribution, just give us some contribution. We won't ask for more. Your idea is good, said Zi Chen. But after coming here, there seems to be a mysterious energy that obstructs Lei Lan's perception. So right now, everyone is actually the same. Lei Ba clearly didn't expect it to be like this, but he didn't care too much and said, "It's naturally good to have an opportunity, but it doesn't matter if you don't. Just treat it as making a friend." Zi Chen nodded slightly and flew forward. Lei Lan naturally followed beside him. "What did you find?" Zi Chen asked as they moved forward. "I haven't found anything yet." Lei Ba said, however, none of the people who came here left. Clearly, they all felt that there was an opportunity here. Zi Chen's gaze swept past the mountain range and looked at the city in the distance. "Is no one going in to take a look?" Lei Ba shook his head and said, "There is obviously a great danger inside, so no one has gone in yet. If the soul-amassing crystal mine was really in this mountain range, no one would want to go in. Or rather, I won't be going in any time soon." While moving forward, Lei Lan constantly used her perception ability to sense the surroundings. However, she found nothing. During this time, Zi Chen's spiritual thoughts found Hu Huanshan. Hu Huanshan was with Lei Zhanghongtian, so he also noticed Zi Chen. They looked at each other coldly. Zi Chen ignored him and continued to look around. His spiritual thoughts landed on the mountain peaks and carefully probed, but he didn't find anything. At this moment, he noticed that in other places, there were many holy spirits using their various abilities and spells to search for opportunities. Among them, one of them was using an eye technique. His eyes lit up as he looked around. Zi Chen said in surprise, "Eye techniques can be used to find opportunities." Lei Bao said, "Although there are no successful examples for the time being, it's obvious that no one has given up." Zi Chen, who was walking forward, suddenly stopped. There was an abnormality here that affected his perception. Could it be some kind of restriction? Under such circumstances, Zi Chen's Eye of Destruction would naturally work. "What's wrong?" Lei Ba looked at Zi Chen, who suddenly stopped. "Perhaps I can give it a try." Zi Chen's eyes lit up as the Eye of Destruction appeared. The originally ordinary mountain range in front of him had a new change at this moment. The colorful energy of heaven and earth filled the surroundings, and it was very eye-catching. At the same time, there was a mysterious power around the mountain range. This power was everywhere, like countless threads, enveloping the surroundings, sometimes disappearing. The light in Zi Chen's eyes disappeared. He found that in such a short period of time, he had consumed a lot of energy. "What did you find?" Lei Ba asked. Zi Chen smiled slightly. "Something interesting." Previously, he had only observed for a short time, but he still found that the light patterns were flickering, appearing, and disappearing. Lei Ba was a little puzzled. Zi Chen took a step forward, and his body lit up. The Eye of Destruction appeared again. Those thread-like patterns appeared once again. Zi Chen stretched out his finger and pointed forward. A ray of light streaked across his fingertip. Lei Lan and Lei Ba both looked at Zi Chen in confusion. The light in Zi Chen's eyes disappeared again, and the smile at the corner of his mouth slowly disappeared. "What did you find?" Lei Lan asked. "What did you see earlier?" Zi Chen asked. Lei Lan shook his head and said nothing. Previously, when Zi Chen had made a move, with a light stroke of his hand, the threads he could see had been torn apart. Within the broken threads, there seemed to be something else hidden within. Since others couldn't see it, it was naturally a good thing for Zi Chen. Next, he just needed to slowly search, and he would definitely discover the secret of this mountain range. Zi Chen nodded slightly and said, "If that's the case, then let's take our time." Next, Zi Chen continued to use the Eye of Destruction. This time he could see more clearly. Those threads appeared and disappeared, as if they were in two different spaces. When they disappeared, Zi Chen's eye technique didn't change at all. But when they appeared, the Eye of Destruction could temporarily cause them to become chaotic. Taking advantage of the moment of chaos, Zi Chen could cut the threads and see what was inside. He saw countless rays of light, like tree roots, intertwining and extending into the distance. The cut threads gathered together again, and the strange scene in front of Zi Chen disappeared. However, the previous glance was enough for him to see some clues. He looked back at Lei Ba and said, "Do you really want to cooperate with me?" Lei Ba said, "Why would I lie? Did you find something?" You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.